It was really good. That's what I see my granddaughter. So,
That's awesome. Where did you go?
went to New York and then the university and just wow.
How was the weather?
It was really nice. It was
Wow.
yeah, it's nice. My friend's in Maryland and she called this morning and said right now it was 35 degrees and she was take her son to school for 9 o'clock. So I was like, oh, she said, yeah, Sherry Blossom said open and she said they're trying to freeze up the flowers.
Already.
Yeah.
It was good to see your baby.
Yes. I got to see my son and my daughter watch it, but it was great seeing the granddaughter. She has grown and learned a lot since I saw her. She's cute.
It's amazing. I got to hang out with my granddaughter yesterday. She's 6 months. And this little girl, very demanding. This is not a kid I really feel. I said, what is going on with this? She was just, but she was so wild. I mean, like, and again, my sons, their choice,
Yeah.
it really impacts the way that you can have a genuine relationship with your grandchild. But he had her yesterday, and he was like, Mom, her nose keep running. I think she's sick. I said, have you taken her outside? She got any natural sun? And he was like, come on, Mama. I said, oh, I forgot. She was born in the 90s. I said, let me come get her. I said, I forgot y'all think iPad and
It's outside.
yeah, I forgot. Y'all set up these greenhouse walls for them. So I came and got her first. I fixed her up real good, wiped her up, and me and her went and sat at the Buttercup and Vallejo. Before I knew it, this child crawling all on the table. She eating her applesauce. And I FaceTime. I said, you see, this is what natural stuff does to the baby. It brings them back. Full flat for the Cadillac. He was like, Mom, she wasn't even moving for 3 days. I said, but she just got her in the room.
Right.
And I
If you treat
still
her like
in.
she's sick, she gonna stay.
She gonna stay.
Definitely need some sunlight.
Yeah, I said, no, let her get up. Have her drink some water. By the time I got through her, she was slumped over. I gave her back to her parents. I said, no, this is the good part. You can give the child back.
Right. My granddaughter, we went to a bakery out in Long Island. And she's walking and talking, and so she just turned to, so she's like looking at everything, and then she saw anybody she saw, she went. So she waved at this man, but she also started to blow kisses. So she waved at this man, and then he didn't respond. And I went, and then I said, oh, we don't blow kisses to just anybody, particularly if somebody doesn't say hello to you. And then he said, oh, hello. I was like,
Yeah. No.
right by then, I was like, the mood is gone, I'm over you.
Yeah.
And then she was kind of like, looking like, you didn't play with me, right? And I was like, you don't need that old funky old.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, hi, sweetheart. I said, let's go.
Yeah.
And I said, baby's innocent. All she did was wave, and you should have responded to wave, but she might not have needed it. I said, no, but she doesn't get it well. Like, you can't blow kisses at everybody.
Yeah.
But the cute, she learned how to do it. I was like, oh, don't blow kisses.
They learn so quick.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Very
wow.
sociable. She's like, because she just learned how to say the hi, and so she's like,
She put her hand and the words together.
You guys have the link is in your email. Should be the email was from Naya.
information.
Need permission. Let's see if it's do you have to request permission?
It doesn't have a request. And make sure I'm in line. You said that the black people were voted, you said the white people.
It says mine. Commission.
You should, well, you make it still on.
Now, I'm about to say, is it still open when you go get lunches now?
I don't know. I know at one point April was there and she wasn't there. And, is it still open, Main and Nine?
Oh, yeah, they,
The gym right next door.
Oh, yes, yes it is.
it is.
Is it still Cafe India? No, at one point they, my son might take it over.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
I heard,
Open,
yeah.
Or whatever.
Oh, really?
That's why it's been open, closed, open.
Mm.
I don't know, my yard is, me back to the lunch at Sydney, right? I'm going to go do some work one day. I'm just like,
Say it again.
Yeah.
then I.
This is where the question is how you can see it.
No, whenever I'm
Have to get permission.
I see the office,
You will need
But then, now that you said so, even Auntie April's having it.
But I should have just running.
So it's one of the letters and then they're not editing it.
For that and go through them. There's detail.
Oh, yeah, that brand opening place. There's the little social.
Yeah, it's not.
So many changes being made. It's a lot to keep up with.
So let me try to send it to, I can try to send it with the emails to the emails in particular. Emails and see if that'll work here.
Okay. It was sent to them. Let me know when you guys do it. Or if there is a need for access.
It'll,
It is?
And for you, what is here? Yes. Yeah, let me know. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Say it again.
I can have these multiple answers.
No, yeah, they're all they're all one answer. That's a good question.
I'm looking at here for my notes, and I'm like, where are they?
No, this one, but we'll take more, of course, though. There will be more. If you can also send it to, that would be good too.
The link to the show?
Please,
Mm-hmm.
just mention. That's it. Okay, cool. All right. So let's do it. The first one is, so what you say? Okay, it's all good. According to Zawari Williams, what is the first employee you want to hire for your nonprofit organization? There's assistant manager, deputy director, fiscal manager, and event planner. And that one, of course, would be the fiscal manager. You definitely emphasize the importance of having a fiscal manager because as soon as you start an organization, whether it's officially with a 501c3 or not, you're having, it'll behoove you to track the money you're spending. It'll behoove you to track the money that you want to spend, even if it's coming from your own money at a certain point. Or say, especially if it's coming from your own money at a certain point, you want to make sure that it's all being tracked and it's all being understood, and at least being discussed, right? I think that when we are spending our own money, we may think, well, this is my idea, this is what I feel like I need, but at least having someone that's with you that's going, okay, let's think about this. What is the best way to spend the money that you do have on your plan to create this program or this organization? And so someone that both bounce off ideas, but then two, receive some type of, we'll say, correction or input that would say, hey, like, I think that this would be the best idea given how much you want to spend and how, what you plan to do with the organization. So, yeah, his first thought was to have a fiscal manager. For question number 2, according to DeVary Williams, how do many nonprofit organizations fund their organizations? There's a huge donor, a rich friend, an entertainer, or a for-profit business. And for that one, the answer would be a for-profit business. Again, what I've seen people do, I've seen Usher have an organization. I've seen Steph Curry have an organization, other football players. I think of Marshawn Lynch and so forth. These are people, right, who have made millions, and then they can go ahead and go, I want to donate this much to this particular cause. I can show up sometimes, I can be there, but I have a whole staff that's going to take care of this for me. However, I don't have to worry about the funding of it because we have money coming in from whether it's endorsements, sponsorships, property, whatever it is that this person can do business wise, that's how the organization can be funded. And so I was actually surprised by his answer, or not his answer, but him just speaking to that, because I know that that's not our situation, but that is definitely something that I have seen. And what I'm even imagining is I've even seen people who have nonprofits be, if you will, adopted into someone else's business and saying, hey, you guys have a great nonprofit. We just want to get behind what you guys are already doing. We want to fund it. We want to make sure that you guys have everything you need. And that also can be a source of inspiration or motivation for us to have great nonprofits, because if we are handling business in a certain area, somebody may say, hey, we love what you're doing. We just want to make sure that you guys have everything you need. You know, attach our name to you guys' business, if you appreciate that. And we can see how we can partner in doing what you guys are already doing for the community. So that is possible as well. According to the training, what type of employee would be a great fundraiser for your organization? I put a carpenter, a salesperson, a highly educated individual, and a cashier. And Tabari was saying that a salesperson would be best fit, which was a great, also again, surprising input that he wanted to make sure that we understood. Having a salesperson will give us an opportunity to have someone that can talk about our organization, but talk about it to the people, how they need to be talked to, in an effort to get the money out of them. When, again, some of us who are more community oriented may not care to explain it to someone for the sake of money. We may be wanting to explain it for the sake of input, or, you know, I really just want to share this because I'm glad that you are genuinely interested. But salespeople know how to talk people into listening. They know how to talk people into caring about things that they aren't particularly caring about at the very moment. So being consistent, persistent, and all those things that can be very difficult for someone without that experience. I remember Ms. Tate, you were talking about it too, about how it's a completely different skill set than having someone who just knows about the organization, great detail, but may not be the person. Yeah, you know, I hear that. And so that was really important, because I imagine just from the lack of sales experience that I have, that the person with the most knowledge of a product will probably be the best person to sell something. And he goes, no, like, you're just going to break down. You might talk too much, get into too many details, right? You may not pick up on all the social cues, may not find ways to re-engage their interests, and so on and so forth. And these are things that salespeople, Tabari said, are much more skilled at. According to the training, how often should the organization be engaged in fundraising? There's all the time, half of the time, once a year, on a quarterly basis. And I put all the time for that one. And I mentioned that too. I want to emphasize that too, because my imagination, honestly, between Giving Tuesday, the galas that I've seen, other people that I've seen have galas in the neighborhood and in the community, it feels like some of these things are like one-offs. And it's like, well, that's how we fundraise, do this one thing, or we put a lot of energy into these Giving Tuesdays or some other type of event, and that's how we fundraise. But it really spoke to the fact that he was saying it's a constant thing. It's not just something you want to do every once in a while. Insofar as you can afford it, you want to make sure that you're putting money towards it as often as possible. Just like with us as well, for our own personal finance, we don't want to just have a job that we work every once in a while. We want to have a job that we can have consistently. We want to consistently bring money in. And that's what we also want to do for our nonprofit organization. And so with that said too, it makes me think about the importance. It makes me think about the importance and the question really of when we're starting off, we may need somebody who is to start rather. Somebody's going to help us with our finances in terms of managing it, and then somebody who's going to help us fundraise from the jump, right? Or rather as soon as possible, right? Because this is something that will become important immediately, because there will be money that will be needing to be spent. And with that being said, there will be money that will need to be funded, or rather raised for this for our program immediately. So it's really a good idea to have that off the bat, if you will. What is the biggest benefit to receiving money from private donors? I want to ask you, Leticia, what was your guess? What's your thought on that one?
I put here, where they are usually larger,
Mhm.
but that wasn't it. Worse. My first one was to say because they're unrestricted,
Uh-huh.
and I was only because I heard that here and get that money, honey. But it was saying according to the training, and because I wasn't paying attention so well,
Yeah.
I was like, well, Rhea said one thing.
Right.
Mr. T probably said something.
Fortunately, they did agree though.
They
Right.
did agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
did agree. They did.
That's good stuff. But yeah, no, and I understand that too. I honestly do feel like, depending on what type of, fundraising you're doing, if you're really going after people who can donate large amounts, that could be one of the reasons. But yeah, definitely he was speaking to unrestricted, and that's good too, whether it's small or large. When you get a grant, you have your line items, and your money has to be coming from different line items. You have to be doing certain things. At the end of the year, you're gonna have to explain where it went and how it was spent and what it wasn't spent on and what it was spent on. And that doesn't come with unrestricted funds. When somebody gives your organization a check, you start putting it where you want to put it. And honestly, you could put it in one pile and just say, we're going to use it at our discretion, right? We're going to use it for some of these things. It could be staff training. It could be getting some new infrastructure. It could be getting some things that are honestly for people's enjoyment. Say, hey man, we have a good team here. We need to work on team building. So we're going to have an exercise where we go and have a good time together on purpose, right? That is also to be part of the unrestricted funds. And so he was specifically in that moment speaking to the things where we need money for something that we didn't expect to have money for. And so that could be helping someone get some food, helping someone get housing, helping someone get transportation. And if you have money that's sitting out somewhere else that is unrestricted, then you can do that and not feel any way about how the money was spent. What is the line you want to make sure? What is the line you want to make sure to include in your budget in order to build up savings over time? So I put savings, bills, reserves, or electronics, and the answer for that will be reserves. And that's something that is super important, actually. Thinking about a trainer that came and spoke to us. She had the organization in Oakland. He said that she has a good amount in reserves, and I'm like, interesting. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. But because I think a lot of people may think we got this grant funding. We just want to make sure that we keep grants coming in. We're not thinking about saving money as much as we are thinking about just raising the money. And it really spoke to the fact that because some people may not fund you next year, some people may fund you next year. They may fund you less. Some people may fund you next year as the same amount, and you really wanted more to do more things. And now you have a space to pull some of those monies from in order to invest in your programs, improve them if you don't have the funds coming from a specific grant that came your way, fortunately. This also speaks to the fact that a lot of grant money that comes from the city is going to be money that we have to float. So they're going to pay us later. And so if you have a lot of reserves, you can say, well, we can cover all this, whether you pay us in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, because we have the money saved up and we're going to build, when we're going to keep raising money, two, we're going to cover these expenses. And then when you pay us back, then we're going to put it, some back in reserves. We're going to keep this reserve thing happening. And so that really spoke to the importance of saving and using that very intentionally. What is the name for a line item that is great for one-off purchases? And this is also a question that Ms. Kate was asking to one, because there were a few different names that he was mentioning. And so I just used one of them. But one that he did mention was padding. But you got also mentioned petty cash,
Barrier removal.
burial removal.
Barrier mitigation.
Yes, burial mitigation. And I also remember miscellaneous too. And just giving it a name again whereby you can pull from it when you need to pull from it, and it doesn't need a whole lot of explanation. A lot of our line items are going to be very specific. We're going to have it for, again, food, we're going to have beverages, we're going to have transportation, we're going to have office supplies, program supplies, whatever it is. But if we have something that's miscellaneous, and that frees it up and go, hey, we got a little bit of this, we got a little bit of that, added this to this, we added that to that, everything's fine. No one is questioning us and looking at us, crazy. And then again, for this last one, what is another name for the one-off purchases we need to make for our clients? And that would be, like you just mentioned, barrier mitigation. Which again is important because we don't know sometimes what our clients will be going through that we can possibly help them out with from our budget, which would actually be a blessing, right? If you can actually say, hey, my kid wants to participate in the program, but we ran into this situation and now, we can't really deal with this. We're like, well, actually, we have funding for that. And so we expected some of this was going to happen. We expected some people might need childcare, something like that, might need this, might need that. Here we go. Take this check, tell a lady, pay this to her, whatever. We make sure we write it to the right person, whatever. And this will cover that so that you can fluidly participate in the program to get the benefits that we honestly want to give to the community. And so those are, so I wanted to present this one as an opportunity for us to jog our memories, be challenged, honestly, to not only pay attention to what we were expected to watch, what we were expected to listen to, but also to do this more too, connect around the book and stuff too. So because we only have a little limited amount of time, I didn't want to ask questions about the book, but I did want to talk about a couple things on the book before our speaker gets here, and he should be here really soon. The big question I want to ask you guys is, have you guys found the book bonuses? Exactly. So I was looking at the book, right? And I'm reading the book, and she goes, and you go look, if you go to the book bonuses, you'll have this. And I go, okay, I bet it's in the back of the book. So I go to the back of the book, go to the back, I see the bibliography, like this is real cute. I'm like, where are the bonuses? It literally says book bonuses, and I don't see book bonuses in the book. Why are you telling me about this if it's not in the book? So I go to the audio book, or maybe even like the first couple of pages of the physical book, and it says the book bonuses are on riawong.com. So I go to riawong.com, type in book, she does the whole thing. Cool. It's the right page. Put in your information, and then you'll have access to the book bonuses. The book bonuses are, I don't have the word in my mind right now, but it's not like, oh, it's a couple of things. It's like a bunch of stuff. So she has podcast episodes that she recommends that either she hosted the podcast, somebody else hosted the podcast. She has book recommendations. She has worksheets. All of these things are in the book recommendations. And my speaker's calling right now. I'm sorry, in the book bonuses. 1 second. Hey, how's it going? Okay. Okay, so honestly, once you get inside the parking lot, this is the space there. And once you get inside, park. So I kind of want to see if I can pull it up right there. But I'm glad that you're looking at that right there. So I honestly thought that the bulk of the references and things that she was pointing us to would be right in the book. Or honestly, like I've heard people recommend certain books and mention certain links and stuff in an audiobook, and I just gotta do my own business and find the link that they were talking about. And then I was like, hold on, let me look at this book bonus thing. And I mean, she has all of these links. And I don't see that I have it open right now, but I did have a link sent to my email because she sent it. Yep. Right here. Look at bonuses. And then so it's often asking me to take a small quiz. But all that to say is that there are quizzes in the book, and then there are quizzes in the book bonuses. There are questions that we can answer in the book, and there are questions we can answer in the book bonuses. Similarly with the worksheets. There are some worksheets that are in the book and you have illustrations and all that, and then some things are in the book bonuses. And so I definitely wanted to make sure that that was clear. Like I said, I imagined it was just in the back of the book, but it is indeed one here online. And I would say I imagine that some of these things would be digital, so it's easy to access. But I also imagine that some of these things we may want to print ourselves and use at our discretion. But yeah, just wanted to make sure that resource was clear. Because like I said, I know from reading the book myself that there is so much that you can just gain from the understanding of just literally reading without doing all the quizzes and such. Hey. But there's also so much more that can be gained from actually taking the time and digging into the book bonuses that she offers. You could come up to the front, please. And so, I know that again, each week we're going through the book one chapter at a time. Really encourage you guys to not only read it, take notes, highlight, so on and so forth, but increasingly, I'm also going to be asking questions about the reading, asking questions about even some of the things that she's bringing up in terms of the resources that she's bringing up. Because even like what we sent out the very first day with regard to the curriculum and such, a lot of videos and stuff are in there. And I'm just throwing it out there because I'm a person that loves from YouTube University. And if I can find somebody that's explaining this part about business, explaining that part about finances, explaining this part, not only am I finding the information, but I might find a personality that I go, they get me and I get them. I know exactly what they're talking about. They done said some words that let me know that they're from the Bay Area, or they let me know they're speaking to a Black audience. That's all I needed right there. So now I actually have somebody I can actually look up some more information on, right? And so all that to say is, one, continue to read, but make sure to dig into the resources that both the book and the book bonuses are offering. The projector.
Yeah, just a projector fine in the Wi-Fi.
Okay, yeah, the Wi-Fi is actually Wi-Fi.
How we doing today, family?
All right.
Good to see you. So the Wi-Fi back here. Yeah, once I get the Wi-Fi, I can just need to connect to the projector and I'm good.
Cool.
Can you read out the password, please?
To the Wi-Fi?
Capital ABC 1 2 3 4 5.
Yeah, the 8 is capitalized.
Yeah, only the A is capitalized. If I didn't say it correctly.
And it's conference room 2.4 or conference room 5.0.
Okay. So,
If you would allow me to, I could do an introduction with your
do your thing,
with
man.
your bio. Yeah, cool.
Do your thing. If you feel
So-
good that way.
Yeah. Let me see. Cool. So one, I actually met Anthony through church. We actually connected with at the Wade Berkeley. And go to church. I joined it and I was like, I needed this so bad. I needed this so bad. This is everything I need. And so I was talking to Naya a little bit about it earlier, just how we got connected. But Anthony Walker is an educator, entrepreneur, and an author from San Diego who currently resides in Oakland, California. He's one of 12 siblings.
It's important. I feel like everybody should know that about me.
Right. Oh my goodness. Right. 12 siblings from a dynamic family full of formal and informal entrepreneurs. Today, he is the owner of Finance Friday, a platform dedicated to educating our community about business, finances, and investing. Pulling from his real life experience and extensive research, Anthony seeks to educate and inspire families to leverage communal skills and knowledge to improve their financial position. Most recently, Anthony wrote a children's book called B is for Black Wealth. The book is one of the only children's books in existence that focuses on the business, finance, and investing practices within the Black community, with a goal to help Black people to master the major concepts associated with finances and to encourage a community to grow together on the journey of collective wealth building. And so again, super excited that he's here. Glad that he was able to make the time. I know in the very first meeting, we talked about some of the things that they would want to hear. And as soon as they mentioned trademark, and I was like, love is currency, right? I was like, okay. I was like, this is not a game. You posted about it, you shared. It's like, I have to make sure this is mine. But I'm also aware that they're going to have other thoughts and ideas, given their desire to do similar work. But sometimes, again, maybe work that they're probably not thinking about right now, but they can do later on in the future. So super glad that you're able to come through and to share with us.
We're all good. Super excited to be here and grateful to be here. It was a little, I was a little nervous when he was reading my bio. I don't know why. That never happened. I don't think somebody read my bio in front of me, man. But so when Jermaine originally reached out to me, he reached out specifically about intellectual property. We got a videographer in the house. Can you share any of that? Do I get any of these clips?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
We got
Okay.
YouTube, we got live on Instagram.
I love it. All good. But long story short, Jermaine reached out to me specifically to talk to speak to intellectual property. And I happen to have a presentation I've never had a chance to actually do. You know what I'm saying? I do a
Right.
bunch of workshops on a whole bunch of different topics around business, finance, entrepreneurship, and investing. But this was actually one of the first workshops that I created, and nobody ever asked me to come and talk about intellectual property. I was actually going to create like a digital product based on this because I think it's so very important for Black folks to understand the importance of ownership, and owning things that we can't touch is sometimes eludes us. But I got a lot of great examples of how important that is, right? So what took me down this route originally, just the idea of intellectual property, why it's so important, monetizing it, was because every Black History Month we talk about and we think about, should I be in a certain spot? Is this my spot right here? If I move,
I'll move.
okay?
All right.
But the reason that I found this interesting and important topic is because every Black History Month we talk about all the things that Black folks have invented, right? But we never talk about who got rich off of all of those inventions. And 9 times out of 10, it wasn't us, right? I was watching Hidden Colors many years ago. It's I know y'all don't see Hidden Colors, but somebody said, one of the brothers said, man, the only thing white people invented was the patent office. Yeah. And it was so funny when they said that to me. Like I felt like at the time I laughed, right? But in fast forward, I'm like, dang, that's deep that we talk about all these inventions, but we never talk about who got rich off of these inventions. And it wasn't us. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that kind of was the beginning of like a deep dive into like, what does it look like to own intellectual property? How do I go? Like, what's the process? Like the whole, like, just how do I go about leveraging this idea for me and myself? And some of this stuff is like factual, and some of this stuff is just like philosophical, just what I believe. You know what I'm saying? So don't, everything is not perfectly, you know what I'm saying? It's not, but it's sound information for sure, but it's definitely not all from a lawyer's handbook, right? And I will say, when it comes to intellectual property, the experts on this are lawyers. They know better than we do, period, point blank. When I went to get my trade, I have 2 trademarks pending right now, and I have 1 trademark that has been completed. The one that has been completed is Love is Currency. I'm put Love is Currency on any type of clothing. Because we went through the process and we had an interesting journey, and I learned some good little tips and tricks to be able to do that. We have 2 pending, one for Pay Yourself First, one for Buy Land. We'll see if we get them. Pay Yourself First got denied once. We're going back with a different little strategy this time, so we'll see if it gets accepted this time. But we'll talk about not only trademarks, but also copyrights and a little bit about patents. I don't have anything patented. It's something I would love to do one day in my life, just to like full circle, just for fun, I guess. I don't know. I think it's cool. But yeah, so either way it goes, today we're going to talk about monetizing intellectual property. And those are the three ways that we kind of protect our intellectual property, but we'll get into it as we go. And please feel free to ask any questions as we're going. Anything that's not clear, anything that needs further explanation. And I'm not the expert of the whole entire world. I'm just one brother that went down this journey, and I'm bringing y'all down this journey with me. But we can definitely find out whatever needs to be found out. Like Jermaine said, YouTube and Google has a wealth of knowledge. Talk to me.
Right.
I want to ask if you can share the presentation when you get a chance.
Okay.
Just so I can send it out to the participants afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. You gotta make sure you don't send it to nobody else though.
Right.
It's a secret. This is my intellectual property.
I won't
Right,
do
right.
anything. I probably not.
But yeah, we'll work that out. So what is this? This is a step-by-step guide to help you create, protect, and monetize what you know. That's what this is all about, right? This is how we turn our ideas into money, right? This is a guide to help turn our ideas into money. Not the only way to do it, but a way. Oh, how do we get to? Oh, my little button be tripping. It goes all the way to the end sometimes, so I gotta make sure not to press that forward button. It's broken. All right. So create, protect, and monetize. These are the 3 steps for me when it comes to talking about intellectual property and why it's so very important. When we talk about creating intellectual property, the steps that I took, right? The steps that I took is I started by identifying a topic. What is a topic that I felt like was important? And it wasn't like this was just like one brainstorm, like how am I gonna take over the world? Like it wasn't nothing like that, right? It was and I'll tell you the story a little bit, right? So my parents taught me a lot of information, a lot of real interesting information about business, finance, entrepreneurship, and investing growing up. In hindsight, I didn't realize it right now, or I didn't realize it at the time, but it was like a college class, like a business college course. Like I got my MBA before I was ever 18. You know what I'm saying? I didn't realize it till I got older and I started studying the stock market. And I realized everything that they're teaching me about the stock market, my parents already taught me. And my parents never invested in the stock market. They were just business owners and entrepreneurs and hustlers, and you know what I'm saying? They were successful at what they did, specifically in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? It kind of went left because some of the gains was ill-gotten gains, but at the end of the day, they left with a lot of great information, right? So once I realized, like, oh, what they were teaching me is like actually in books that I'm reading right now, like that's how much value that it has. I said, okay, let me start helping people make these connections between the highest levels of finance, which I consider the Silicon Valley, the Wall Street. Those are what most people consider the highest levels of finance, to what we already understand as a community, what the things that we already talk about, the things that we already are concerned about, right? And like my dad said, he always says, "Now I don't know what's going on Wall Street, but I know what's going on Main Street." Right. For me, the idea is how do we make a connection between Main Street and Wall Street? For what I'm saying, metaphorically, right, but also in reality as well. So that's how the topic came for me. The topic was business, finance, entrepreneurship, right? And then the second thing I did, and I didn't do this on purpose actually. So I'm kind of reverse engineering what ended up happening. I created a framework. So what is a framework? A framework is a framing or a foundation for which ideas that ideas could sit on top of, right? So the way that my frameworks were kind of organized, I just used principles that I thought were important to this idea of finance, business, and investing. And again, it didn't come, it's not like I wrote this out before I did it. I actually wrote this out after I did it, right? I started off by just doing videos and sharing videos about different topics that specifically that my parents taught me and that I was also seeing in other places as I was studying finance. So as I started creating these videos, eventually I'm like, oh, I think I got to like video number 15. I kind of got tired of hearing myself talk a little bit, but I was like, in review, like what all did we cover? And I went down that list and figured out like, oh, okay, that was the 12 principles of financial freedom. There was 15 videos, but there was 12 strong principles that I pulled out of those 15 videos. And as soon as I figured out those principles, I put them on paper, right? I wrote them down, right? And it's important. Well, a couple things. I think it's important to say, while I was creating this video series, it was 15 weeks straight that I did it. While I was creating this video series and I was doing it week by week, I started selling merchandise. So I had shirts that basically said, I put some of these messages on shirts: pay yourself first, love is currency, buy land, black wealth end up coming a little bit later, right? So I put all of these on paper, or I put a lot of these things on t-shirts, but by the end, I'm like, okay, this is what I pulled from it, right? So I created a framework. In this framework, I will kind of go into why it's so important, a little bit more about what it is. And why I think it's, but then what happened was, before I launched the Black Wealth Principles, which was a slightly different, I actually did my framework ahead of time. And actually now it's 10 principles of Black Wealth. I did my framework ahead of time, then I did the content afterwards. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I'm just telling y'all to do, like I took my own advice once I figured out like, oh, that's how you do it. You know what I'm saying? I took my own advice and went ahead and did it. But the third thing that's extremely important that we do is for it to officially be created, we have to put it in a fixed form, right? Whatever our intellectual property is, you have to put it in a fixed form. So if it's in your brain, it means nothing. If I'm just walking down the street and I give you $1 million idea and you go run with it, you go run with it. It is what it is. There's nothing I could do to protect that, right? But if for example, if I put them down like this for distribution on these little tags, you know what I'm saying? I write it down, put it in a fixed form. Now it is intellectual property, right? That I created, that I could then go about protecting and owning. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Another example of a fixed form is t-shirts. I did the t-shirt. So that was me putting it into a fixed form. Once it's on a t-shirt, I can say, hey, I created that. This is the day I created it. This is when I started selling it. It's not necessarily protected, but I have a paper trail of like, hey, y'all, I did this. This when it happened. You can see it. You feel what I'm saying? It's like a digital footprint that proves that this is my creation, right? So putting it in a fixed form is extremely important. It's legal language. And that's what they'll tell you to do before you could ever protect anything. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Okay, so what is a framework? It's a structured underlying system, a concept, or a text, right? It's a structured underlying system, a concept or a text. The purpose is to support your thesis. We have to figure out what our thesis is, just like writing a paper. What do I believe? And real quick, I'll just ask y'all, what industries are y'all in? What do we do? What are we doing here? Or what are we interested in doing? A crafter? What do you craft?
Oh man, I wrote an ebook.
Okay.
I do memorial casket wraps, more urn wraps. I do all type of party favors, any season, grad season, Easter.
What type of like what machinery or whatever do you use?
So right now, all I have is a Cricut.
Cricut machine to do it though.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a Cricut, and then I have, of course, I have Silhouette, Photoshop. I have like 3 Epson printers because I sub versus just doing regular jet ink printing.
Sublimation.
Sublimation.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm trying to right now just build my portfolio. So I make obituaries. I do all type of stuff.
Yeah.
And the more that I'm learning, the more I see what I need. Like I need an embroidery, I need an embosser, I need, but I got the basics to at least do little things right now.
Nah, you doing it. That's dope. That's a dope skill set. We're gonna talk later because I got some students that would love to learn. I got some printing machines and I got some students. So we need to figure out how to get these students to talk. We gotta teach them how to use the printing machine. So we're gonna talk. What is it that you do?
I run a domestic abuse services center, but I also do training. So I write content, and I have actually had someone present my own material back to me in a workshop.
Ooh, they tried you. They tried you. Man, it's a cold world out here in these streets.
Dirty.
And in the back.
I would like to assist with survivors of domestic violence as
Okay.
well. Outside of that, I have an LLC where I create products, like body care, and I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate the two. So I've been kind of toggling back and forth. Originally, it started off as like curriculum based. I wanted to do education around children that have gone through domestic abuse because I also have like my ECE units and I've worked in childcare and stuff like that. So I am really trying to like center in what exactly I'm going to do, but it's going to be of service to survivors and their children.
Gotcha. So you have a business, and is your business active?
Right now, no.
Okay, but it has been active in the past.
Yes.
Okay, and so there's proof that people like your products and they
Yes.
buy them and all that type of stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. I had a non-active clothing business until like last week. You know what I'm saying? For real. Like I had the clothing business been unactive, but last week I just dropped some. So last week I just dropped. So that's okay, right? So you have a business, there's proof of concept there, but you have a need or a need that you want to take care of, right? Like you have there's something, and you're trying to figure out how to incorporate those two things. Okay. First thing I'll say is every nonprofit in America is trying to find ways, if they're not super well funded, they're trying to find ways to make money. Even if they are well funded, they all say, "Oh, we're trying to find ways to make money outside of our funding." No, they're not. Some of them are, some of them are not. If they paid, they're not, but they should be, right? I think everybody should. That's my main point. I think all nonprofits should have a for-profit arm. There should be something that you are doing to bring in money because you can't always be. We can't. I'm gonna just say as Black folks, we can't always be dependent on nobody else. So sometimes it's good to just be able to have your own. So that's a good. All right, but the reason I ask those questions, right? Because around your business, around whatever y'all got going on, I'm sure you have a thesis. This is what I believe, and this is why, right? Is that fair to say? I think just tell them just from the quick tap, and I can tell all of y'all have a basic thesis about your business, right? Or about what your business does for other people. So when we're creating intellectual property, that thesis is extremely important. We have to know what our North Star is essentially, and then we can create and build around that. You know what I'm saying? And the purpose of a framework is to support your overall thesis. You understand what I'm saying? Another purpose of a framework is it forces you to take a position. The worst thing in the world that somebody could be is just somebody wallowing in the wind. You know what I'm saying? Especially when we talk about a business or organization, you got to take a stand. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like when they, when like big corporations be like, there's great people on both sides type, Donald Trump type of feeling like, come on, bro. You got to take a stand somewhere on something, right? So when you create a framework and you put it down on paper and you write it, you put it out there, you have to take you have to pick a side, take a stance, right? And it could be your own stance. You take a stance on what you feel like taking a stance on. You don't got to take a stance on everything in the world, but you have to take a stance on your thesis, because if it's a good thesis, then there's going to be objectors to that thesis. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If there's a good framework, there's going to be people that are saying, "Dang, that's interesting. How do I agree? How do I not?" Does that make sense? So it forces you to take a position. Super important. Within the context of a framework, you should have some novel or controversial ideas. And again, the level of tension that you create is up to you. You understand what I'm saying? Like Black Lives Matter is a great example. To us, there's no tension there, right? It's like, oh yeah, duh. But for whatever reason, to the larger American society, that was like the most controversial thing a person could ever say. What do you mean Black Lives Matter? What about the other? Like, you know what I'm saying? But the point is, it had enough tension. There was enough tension within that simple statement to create a conversation, to create some discord, right? Another, and we'll talk about what's within a framework in a second. This is the overall framework. We should also have some widely accepted simple truths. You understand what I'm saying? Things that are so plain, so simple, but other people just maybe couldn't put it into words. You ever been like I remember when I first went to college, I was like, dang, like I've had that thought my whole life, but I didn't really have the language for it. Those are the people that kind of, they get motion, especially in academia, but I can say in real life too. People that put language to the feelings of other people. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So also some very, making concept ideas, very simple truths is should also be a part of like what the purpose of your framework. Focus when you're creating a framework, focus on it being comprehensive. You understand what I'm saying? This is not your thesis. It just supports your thesis, right? And the more comprehensive it is, the more support. It's like the foundation to your business in some ways, or the foundation to I would say the intellectual side of your business. You understand what I'm saying? So it's so make sure it's comprehensive, that it covers different corners of our business or what it is that we do. Does that make sense? And then a framework should consist of memes. A framework should consist of memes, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about necessarily the memes on the internet, even though that's a great memes on the internet. But we'll kind of talk a little bit about where that came from, right? So, oh my goodness, hold on, sorry, don't mind me. All right, a meme. What is a meme? I don't know why it doesn't say that, but it should say at the top. What is a meme? All right, what is a meme? A meme is a unit of cultural information spread by imitation. A unit of cultural information spread by information. This is what we need to understand. Frameworks don't go viral. Black Lives Matter took, I don't know why I'm using that example today, but this is the example that's, I don't know, on my heart. Black Lives Matter, they wrote all type of stuff about, they had a whole website with all types of information about what they stood for, what they believed in, none of that went viral. The only thing that went viral is that one piece of culture, a unit of cultural information. Black Lives Matter, 3 words, real simple. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm sure we could find other examples, but that's one that just resonates with me right now, right? That went viral. It's a meme. Their framework, their website, what it said on there, it didn't go viral. Later on, people got a hold of it. It was like, oh, hold on. Mm-hmm. They've been doing this, they've been doing that, they buying houses. And look what their website says. You feel what I'm saying? Either way it goes, the point is that is the power of the meme. You understand what I'm saying? But then the framework's not going to go viral. The framework is for you. The framework is for you to point back to when your stuff does go viral. Hey, y'all, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm on. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, you believe in that. You like my little workshop? Okay, boom. Well, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe in. This is what I want. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the framework is for that, but the meme is what's going to go viral. To me, my opinion, when we're talking, and listen, I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist like other people as far as like, visual. I'm not a visual artist, I'll say, right? So when I think of stuff, I think of it in terms of words. So when we're talking about memes in words, a meme should be 2 to 3 words, typically maximum. Because it's a small unit of culture. That's why memes on the internet work so well. Because sometimes it's no words, right? It's just a picture. You feel what I'm saying? It's just I'm getting information. I'm getting quick information right here, right now, that I can recreate, talk about, share, and spread quickly, and people are going to imitate this. Does that make sense? So again, the 2, 3 words is my opinion. There's some people that are artists that might not need no words. If you're an artist, you feel me? If you can tell a story good enough just visually, and there's a lot of examples of that too. And another thing, the memes should be true to you. The memes within our framework should be true to you. You don't share memes that you like, nah, I don't believe in that. It just doesn't, it's not real, right? And if it's not true for you, it's not going to be authentic to your audience. It's not going to be authentic it's not going to be true to, I ain't gonna say it's not going to be true to anybody else, but it's not going to resonate the same way. You have to find things that resonate with you and allow those to be the things that you share out, because it'll resonate with the people that are, you know, your little tribe too. And again, to me, memes work when they're one of two things. They are instructive. It's an action. Go do this. Just do it by Nike, right? Go do something. They go just do it. I can't think of nothing else off the top of my head that's famous, right? But an action word. And then also when they represent a hidden truth, like something that people haven't quite uncovered, that's a hidden truth. That is to me when memes are super helpful. And I think I talked about, yeah. Does that make sense? Any questions here?
I haven't thought about memes in terms of going viral versus a framework. We have a title that I've never thought of that I guess could be memeish to someone. I just never thought of it in that context.
What is it? What's the title?
Black women revolt.
That's a meme. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, you know?
That's a meme. Or that's what, and I'm not trying to like, you know, when you hear meme, you like, that's a picture on the internet. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I was thinking,
Yeah.
I didn't think of it in terms of.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to like discount, but according to this is the original. I remember the day I found out what a meme was. I was like, oh, that's the definition. Before it was ever on social media, there was an original definition. That's the meme. Black women revolt. Oh, that's a meme. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we could get behind that. Now tell me more. You feel what I'm saying? That's what I want to hear. Like, okay, tell me more. What's that mean? But it also is that controversial to some people.
It is.
Hell yeah, that's controversial. What you mean y'all revolt? Revolt against who?
Right.
Just me revolt against us. The white people all revolt against us. The women, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna it's some controversy, it's some tension there. You feel it? But it's also a bunch of women like, oh yeah, I'm behind it. No matter what you talk about, I'm already with it. Tell us how to revolt. You understand what I'm saying? It gets the people going. And it's also actionable too. Because it could also be a statement. Instead of a passive thing, it could be like, yeah, black women revolt. You know what I'm saying? It could be like an action statement too. I like that. That's dope.
Yeah. It's like the flag. I wrote it, we had Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
That flag when that got everybody's attention.
Right.
We
And you say,
He did with Bobby Shmurda.
you say black women revolt, we like, where we coming to? You know what I'm saying?
And it's crazy you say that because that is now a meme.
Yes,
And we don't even have to, there's no words to that, right? Mine be words. I wish I was more visually, but like even that, I wouldn't have thought of that. But you're right, that's a meme now.
That's the first thing when I
It's a meme.
When I seen that, the first thing I thought about, I promise you, in my phone, I got all my cousins, A1 and then my cousin, so that they can stay in one area. Then I group them up. So if anything ever happened, I literally only have to push one button and every single one of them are notified at one time.
I know that's right.
So when I seen the hat go up, I was like, that's the button.
That's the
Right.
That's the best thing right there.
That was the
That's the meme. That's another example of a meme. Right now, we're getting even better memes than I could describe. Right? I'm just talking about words because again, I'm a word person. But other people are artistic in different ways. So like, yeah, that's a meme. Wakanda Forever, that's a meme. You don't gotta say nothing. You don't gotta say Wakanda Forever no more.
Right.
The words are helpful, but even just this, that's a meme.
Yes.
Wakanda Forever, 2 words. That's a meme also, right? Together and separately, both of those 2 things mean something, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that memes and symbols are very closely related, right? And you could argue that symbols are memes and memes are symbols. Right? Make sense?
Yes.
Anything else here?
Yeah. Only thing I just want to add, I think about when you were bringing up these examples, I was thinking about Apple and how and just the slogans, because you brought up Nike. I think about Just Do It. I think about Apple that have Think Different. And just how, I remember they even had their first commercial was a guy who like threw a hammer at like a screen and it like, exploded this whole situation. But I felt like that's what they were doing when they were making a statement too. Now we can kind of see like how big the statement was, but when you're like, oh, they just make computers, it's like, it's not a big deal. And you're like, yo, like they changing the whole, landscape of like how we feel about electronics, period. Right. And I still got to get the Vision Pro. But the reality is, that looks so dope. But at the end of the day, I just really think about just our slogans and how you're fortunate, Miss Tate, to have an organization that has practically a slogan as the name, like Black Lives Matter, whereas Black Lives Matter could be, the foundation of blah, 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 blah. And then they come with this one statement. Now they're like, okay, can I term that? But now some places, and for those of us who don't have names for a business yet, we can actually have the name of the organization be something that is a meme itself too.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. I love it. And that's the name of your organization, Black Women Revolt.
Black Women Revolt, and it's funny, it was originally just Black Women Revolt. It started off with media, which was a 2-minute documentary. And then it became Black Women, was the vision, I guess, Black Women Revolt Against Domestic Violence, which is what I run. Now we're going into food fragility and also education.
So you could always add the pieces. This is the main concept, and you could always add against whatever towards this, against that. That's dope. I love it. Yup. Anything else before we move on? Cool. Oh my goodness, I keep going to the conclusion. My bad, y'all. Frameworks, memes. All right. So for me, the process of monetizing intellectual property is kind of what we're talking about today. But the process starts with creation, right? We talked about creating a framework, making sure that our framework consists of memes. When we talk about memes, right, we know that what comes next from creating a meme, well, if we don't know, I'm telling you right now, is creating content around that meme, right? So you talked about having like workshop presentations that you do. You created content around that meme, right? And then from content, the goal should be to turn that content into money. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the path to monetizing intellectual property that I'm kind of laying out to us, right? And then just a couple of things about each of those sections of the path, right? We know memes should be 2 to 3 words and/or visuals also for those that are creative in that way. Memes should be memorable, widely accepted truths, novel ideas, and also the other one, controversial ideas that we didn't add here, but we talked about it earlier. Content. And this is not all inclusive because I'm sure there's more ways to make content, but video, audio, written word are the 3 main types of content that I'm going to focus on. But I would love for y'all to expand your mind and be as creative as you want and thinking about what else is considered content to you. Just like you explained when you do through the hat in the air, that's a meme, right? What else is content outside of just these different formats that I just explained, right? But the reason I spoke to these specific formats, we'll talk about it later, but it's around protecting that intellectual property, right? It has to be in a fixed form. So that's the legal language. So a video is in a fixed form, audio is in a fixed form, written word is in a fixed form. You understand what I'm saying? And then monetizing, right? These are a couple of examples, not all the examples in the world. But a book. I personally wrote a book. I'm gonna show you my book right now.
Right.
And we're still on the creating intellectual property piece, right? But I wrote a book. It's called Biz for Black Wealth. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, this is like one of the oldest forms of content, one of the oldest forms of content or of media. So I felt like it probably makes sense to create it. If I'm talking about intellectual property, and it's one of the cornerstones of my business and things that I think is very important, then I should probably create some. You understand what I'm saying? So a book, a digital product. When I created this, digital products were like all the rage. It was people getting rich off of digital products every single day. I kind of missed that way. You know what I'm saying?
It's coming back.
It might, for sure. There's different ways. So I feel like stuff be the same but different, right? Just repurposed, right? So there's ways where I've already kind of repurposed it, but either way it goes. But digital products, just any type of digital offering, I think is important. Merch, so like any type of clothes and things of that nature. Events, and I would say under events, especially now that I'm in this world, like workshops, I would consider like a form of an event. Conferences, seminars, things like that. I would say all of those things fall under the categories of events. But these are ways that we go from create to monetization. we're not fully there yet, but this is what the path is, right? Anything to add there? Any thoughts there?
Where does art fall in if it's not like hand done art or digital art?
What's
It's not necessarily a video, like if someone drew, like somebody did a rendering for Wakanda. The person who did the artwork for that in terms of content before it's replicated for like mass produced for money.
Mm-hmm.
My question, I guess, kind of goes into the protection of those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not the easiest thing. Well, I'm sure it gets tricky, but I hear what you're saying. But the point is, it has to be a fixed form. So I could say, man, it'd be dope if we crossed our arms and said Wakanda forever, and you'll never protect that. It's never protectable. If that just happened in a side conversation between two people, whatever. The person that owns it is the person that brings it into a fixed form. So in that sense, it might be a storyboard. You might storyboard, hey, this is the man. These are one of the things that we're gonna what they call it in stories when you have a recurring theme or recurring thing, like what's a word for it? I can't think of it.
Reframe.
Nah, it's kind of like one thing that exists within. It keeps on coming within a story.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of the word, but either way it goes, somebody probably storyboarded that. Somebody probably put it on a storyboard and showed it and wrote it and they put it together. So whoever created that storyboard would technically be the owners. In real life, what happened though, I'm sure, is these people were working for Marvel at the time. So Marvel like basically hired people, and any intellectual property that came out of that automatically went to Marvel for good reason. I would understand if you're doing a multi-million-dollar film and you're fronting all the money, you want to own everything that comes from these little sessions that we do together. Now, there are other artists, and I wish I had some examples off the top of my head, but that create the content first and then will negotiate or pitch it to somebody else. And now it's a different leverage point. You have a different form of leverage. If I've already created the idea or the content and I've already put it in a fixed form, right? I have different leverage to have a conversation with Marvel and pitch it. Tell them, you know what I'm saying? This is mine. It's protected. You know what I'm saying? But if it's something that you think is dope, we could work out a licensing deal, or you could buy it outright, or whatever the case is. But the point is, I think to your point, the question that you were having, it's about putting it in a fixed form. Is that a storyboard? Is that a series of pictures? Is that an explanation? Pictures with an explanation. You understand what I'm saying? It has to be fixed. And once it's fixed, you could take the steps of protecting that. We'll talk about protection in a second. Hand in the back.
Yeah, okay. This is a question that I've been having for a while, but you just sparked it. Okay, so earlier when I was saying like the business is separate or whatever, and it's already been here, but I was trying to find a way to incorporate it into the nonprofit so I can use funding from that when there is none available from any other source, like the grants and stuff. My issue.
You said there is no.
Like if there isn't any
yeah.
funding from somewhere else at the time.
Yeah.
But my issue, I guess, that I was running into in my mind, I don't know if it's a real issue or not, but I was thinking like, how do I protect myself? Because I remember a session, and maybe I interpreted it wrong, but saying like the nonprofit basically, I guess, like becomes it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the community.
Public, yeah.
So that was my big thing. It's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna use my brand as funding for this, like do they end up having some sort of say so with my brand because of that? That's what I was like trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Like, how do I protect anything from happening to like my creative property? Because these are like my ingredients and my things that I've worked on, and like my things that I have to test out and get together and all that. And I don't want them to be able to have any connection to that, but I do want to use the money from that to fund certain things for the nonprofit. And
there could even be more. It could be more than connections. It could be, you know what I'm saying? It could be as closely bound as you want it to be, right? In a way that makes sense, while still maintaining the protection of the things that you created, right? It's just a matter of delineating what belongs to the for-profit business and what belongs to the nonprofit business. At the end of every year for a business, you have to create something called a balance sheet. Balance sheet expresses everything all the assets that the business owns, all the liabilities that the business owns. That's one way to put on paper, trademark on your balance sheet for your business, copyrighted material on your balance sheet for your business. Like all of these things, that's a way that you could demarcate that this is property of my business. There's other ways to do it as well, but you don't, just because a nonprofit and a for-profit business are in bed somehow does not mean that the nonprofit absorbs the things that are owned by the for-profit business or from the individual. So just because I work for a nonprofit or I found a nonprofit or I'm the CEO of a nonprofit doesn't mean that my book automatically belongs to the nonprofit.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? It's still mine. I retain ownership. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's been like, I've been in my head about it. I don't really know how to explain it, but that's something else coming up.
I
Yeah.
think
that's
that came
fair.
from a conversation that I had said where we have a couple of grants where like, suppose I go to a specific number of workshops. And so they're like, any content that is written for said workshop is paid to me as a form of work, right? So they were saying that if I created it, that they technically, as sponsors, are technically owners of said work, which is why I also never use the word computer. I use my personal computer. I wrote the content, I copyright the content that I've written. Same thing with you as you are making a product. You own that product, but if you're making it and working on it under the guise of your work, when I do workshops, I don't even write at work. I write at home on my own personal computer because it's not work time. I can use this to do a workshop in Southern California, or if somebody asks across the country that has nothing to do with my job, I can still do that because it's not owned by my job. I didn't create it at work.
Yeah, and that's true. To me, that's predatory for a sponsoring organization to say, we own the content that you created if we front the money. And I guess that is what it is in the business world, right? Like with Marvel, I guess everything is a business on some level, right? But like we talked about Marvel, how y'all Wakanda will forever, but we gonna own that. Disney gonna own that. You understand what I'm saying? So I understand it from a business perspective. If I put up the money, I want to own it. But from a nonprofit perspective, that feels very predatory to me. And it's really probably, huh?
We're getting a grant, so they paid us a grant, but I'm also still going, when I work 9 to 5 and I gave a workshop, that's fine. But what I wrote was what I wrote, so now I just don't write it when I'm at work because it wasn't done or created during work time. It was created for me to share at work, but it was not created.
How do you prove it?
I write and I keep it in my computer, and then I also copyright my presentations. Particularly after I got presented my own presentation to myself and paid to get that workshop.
How did that end?
That was not pretty. My boss actually happened to be with us. It was 5 of us that went to a workshop. We paid $400 a person. And I was like, oh, this is familiar. And then she got to a point and I asked a question. I said, wait a minute, this is mine. And then I recognized somebody in the room that worked in the same company. And I told my boss, I said, this is my presentation. He's like, you're kidding. And I pulled it up in my phone in my Google Drive. They wound up paying us back. We don't work with them at all anymore. I have no respect. I feel like it's an organization without any type of integrity. If you use someone else's presentation and you say, you know, we took this from the National Hotline, we took this from NAB, we took it from, or we borrowed a section. You don't do a whole presentation, brand the presentation, and then present it in a workshop like you wrote. That's not appropriate.
And you gotta ask too, on top of that. Yeah. You have to ask. That's deep. That's deep. Did that help answer your question? But that might still be sticky with the sponsoring organization, right?
And then
Like
I wrote a note. They know I don't do any type of work. Like if I'm doing a presentation, that is my presentation. They're like, oh, we should monetize. I said, you'll need to come up with curriculum to do that because I'm not going to do that and give my curriculum work to someone else to monetize.
So it's a nonprofit that you work for. Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not.
So it's part of the. So this is not even your agreement with the nonprofit or with the grantee. But this is not your.
When I saw it, I was like, I actually mentioned the other person's an attorney, and she writes as well. And she's like, oh, I said, I don't need to use my work computer.
So so this is an agreement between the grantee and your organization, right?
Grantor.
The grant,
right? You know, they're like, oh, you know, we sponsor
the grantor.
Some things are like, oh, we wrote one on. We did a research project on legality and domestic violence, and they were like, oh, we want the report, and we're like, yeah, that wasn't done under your funding.
Mm,
And they're like, oh, why are you guys going to brand it or put it with our, because our fiscal sponsor, we always have to put YCD and we have to put whoever else is
mhm,
fiscally sponsoring us. We're like, actually, that didn't come from your funding.
mm.
And so they're like, oh, well, we'd like to have, you can have a copy of it. It's copywritten and you didn't fund it and your logo is not going on it because you didn't fund it. And it was a
Interesting.
potential for it.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And if you don't mind me
Yeah.
asking, what did you do to copyright it? Is it something you do?
You can just send
by
it in.
yourself?
One thing is simple, is just kind of email it to yourself with the
Yeah.
date stamp, put it in
Yeah.
an envelope, mail it to yourself, and don't open the envelope.
Okay,
That's called a poor man's copyright.
exactly,
So,
yeah.
so one,
You can also do it online.
yeah, and we're gonna get into that too. But once you put something in a fixed form, copywriting is the simplest form of intellectual property, right? That you could own. Because once you put it in a fixed form, you technically own the copyright for it. Once it's in a fixed form, it's time stamped and dated, and you can prove it came from this time, this place. You know what I'm saying? All those things. Once you can prove that, then you technically have a copyright. Now, in an instance where I have copyrighted material that somebody else used, right? Now, how do I prove it? If I were to take them to court, right? I have the receipts already, but there is an extra layer of protection that we'll talk about. I'm talking about it now. We're going to talk about it in a second anyway, so whatever. But there's an extra layer of protection where you can basically submit it to the copyright office of the United States of America,
Okay.
and you just submit it. And it's a pretty simple process. You don't necessarily need that unless you're going to go to litigation. If you want to do it ahead of time, there's nothing wrong with having it done ahead of time, like on some I wish somebody would versus reacting, right? But copywriting is the lowest bar as far as is in owning intellectual property. Because once you create it, you put it into the world, like right now, or like say I take a video of something I got going on, I'm the copyright owner of that video. You understand what I'm saying? So, for example, right now, and I'm just gonna say this on camera, it's a cold truth. But technically, the videotaper of this camera, who owns that camera,
I do.
so technically, you're the copyright owner of this particular presentation, which is crazy. There's still things I could do to protect against that. If you did something with it I didn't like, I might be able to. But technically, I couldn't take this presentation and say, hey, can you send me a copy of this? I couldn't take it and then sell it for money. I could use it, but I couldn't sell it for money because you're technically the copyright owner. Because it's on your camera. That's the fixed form.
And that even comes up when it's your.
I don't always
company.
let people video record. You know what I'm saying? We get lucky to now. I'm just like I don't care about stuff like stuff like this. It is what it is. I don't be tripping.
But
But it's important to understand
that can even come up when it's your company and you hire a person
for sure.
and it's their
For
sure.
sure.
Camera, and you're like, well, thanks, it's mine, and they're like, yeah, it's mine too.
Yeah, you're
Wow.
technically supposed to sign a work for hire agreement, meaning that you are delivering this. You know what I'm saying? As a work for hire situation. You know what I'm saying? Like you're like I'm trading you your copyrighted information or this copywritten thing, like this camera, I'm trading you that for some money. You know what I'm saying? So it's not actually mine. So you're technically supposed to put that on paper when somebody videotapes for you or whatever the case is.
That's crazy.
I gotta
Crazy.
ask. I've never asked this question. So I've done some modeling before, and I'm pretty sure I'll do some more for a particular company.
Like that.
You know,
What can I say? I had to.
you know,
I like that post. I like that post.
So what happens is, the question is, you know, that'll happen, right? If somebody random will hit me like, oh my gosh, man, like I saw you at I saw you over here. They'll take a picture by it, whatever. And you know, when I get paid for these opportunities, I get paid for just like a one-off thing, and that's it. And honestly, like I'm not so deep into it to where I'm like, yo, like forget that. Like we gotta hold up. Let me give you this paper. But is that a form of rather something that I should protect? And if that is the case, would it be similar to what you said with the whatever letter for hire type of situation?
Yeah. It's similar, right? It's a similar situation because if they're taking pictures of you, they're technically on some level on that picture. there are things, it's tricky, and don't give me the line on this particular subject, right? Because I think, from my understanding, there are ways that you can protect against them utilizing it in unauthorized ways, right? So there's protections there for you, but technically it's their work that they could go and sell and do whatever they want with it.
Okay.
So should you put something in place to protect from? I'm not all the way stickler. If I was all the way stickler, I would say, hey, I don't really do video. If I was if I was Gary B, I might say like, hey, turn that camera off respectfully. You know what I'm saying? I might. You feel me? Because it's worth too much to give it away. Anthony Walker's, it might be worth something to the people in this room. Maybe one day it's worth a lot. And if it does, man, shout out to you. You caught it early. Good for you. I ain't mad at you. You understand what I'm saying? But if I already know that this content is already worth 100 bands, immediately I might be more apt to be like, hey, I don't really allow outside, and I'm gonna have my own camera here. I don't really allow for that. Woo, woo, woo. At this point where I'm at right now, like it's a mutual benefit. Like, hey, can you send me that? I would love to use it. Da 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 da. Woo woo.
Yeah.
And I'm just being honest. This is not, again, legal advice or nothing like that, because this is just me personally, right? I'm not about to tussle about every single thing. I don't write contracts or write contracts about every single agreement that I make. There are some though where I'm like, no, I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, like typically I won't send out slides, and now that we're talking about this, I probably can't send all these slides now that we're talking about it, just because like there's curriculum I created that we don't send those slides at all because of the time, energy, effort that we put in to create it, the type of money that we're getting for showing up and, you know what I'm saying, doing our thing. It doesn't make sense for us to send it out. Even though this presentation, I've never monetized this presentation because nobody's ever specifically asked for it. But it's something that I may monetize in the future, depending on the situation, right? But this one I'm a little less concerned about. Like, again, if I was doing my curriculum right now, I would respectfully decline getting videotaped because I know the value of that. I know what we put behind it and what we are putting behind it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For something like this, it's, we're also a community. So like, y'all not gonna get rich off this presentation. Neither am I. I might make some money, but we're not about to get rich off of it. I'm sorry to say, but that's what I believe. I might be wrong.
Right.
So I don't know if that answers anybody's question, or you know what I'm saying? Like kind of your question for you. You enjoy it. You're into it. Are they gonna make $1 million off of you? If they do, you might need to think about it, brother.
Right.
But if it's like, you're gonna show up on billboards and they're gonna make their thousands of dollars, just like, you know what I'm saying? Most of the companies in our you know what I'm saying, village, like, I'm not about to trip on you off your little $1,000 you might make off of this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then I feel like that's kind of like robbery though. Because
Talk about it.
if you're a model, you get a flat fee, but they still do get marketing and endorsements and residuals from every billboard, from every commercial, from every social media ad that your face is in. But you only got a flat fee.
Yeah.
And then you don't own any of those visuals either.
Right.
So they can turn them into other things and make more money off of
sure
it that you would never know about.
100%.
They could do training material with your face on it.
For
And
sure.
so maybe you should be like having your own
Talk about it.
contract when you go sign for a job or
Talk
something.
about it.
So you might can't ask for that, but I don't know. That's tricky.
You're 100% right. So like, you're 100% correct. So the textbook truth is what you just said. I just gave you that was lightweight off the record what I was saying. You understand what I'm saying? What you're saying is technically correct and true. For real, like legally, I would, if I was from a lawyer's perspective, what you said is right. But it's kind of like social media. You sign away your rights on social media. They can reproduce, rebroadcast, do whatever, remix anything that you put on social media for their own benefit. You still technically own the copyright of it because you're the one that put it in a fixed form. But they could do whatever. They could remix the song whenever, however, wherever they want. They could sample it whenever, wherever, however they want for their purposes. You signed it. It's written. Huh?
So this is a cold game too. On top of that, generally speaking, you sign a photo release or you sign that you got paid. So then they can, a year later, 2 years later, when we're doing our website, we want these stock photos. And we're picking out these photos. thousands of photos that we looked at. And I said, oh, I really like this photo. It felt local, right? And we pointed it out, put it in our list of suggested photos, and the company we use is Brilliance. And they were like, oh my God, that's our photo. I was like, what do you mean it's your photo? And she pulled out and went in her calendar. They've done pictures for Kaiser Permanente for an ad specifically for Kaiser Permanente, and it got sold, and it's now in a stock.
Yeah.
Thousands of pictures where we would have had to pay $34 to use the picture, to license to use it on our website. And she was like, we didn't even get paid for it, and we paid for the photo shoot. So.
Oh, and they paid for the photo shoot on top of that?
Right. The photo shoot wasn't even free.
But they
She
signed.
did send a cease and desist letter and
Interesting.
they removed it. But
Okay.
she said it's a whole photo shoot. And now 4 of the photos from that particular.
Good for
thing
them.
Were there getting monetized.
Did they sign anything away? Did they sign the rights to it away?
They didn't. It was just specifically for Kaiser, and Kaiser signed, that was what that was for. And they don't even know how it got to the stock company that the photos
Oh,
were.
Kaiser sold it. They had
Somebody did it.
they had millions of pictures, and they said for these millions of stock pictures, we'll give you give us X amount of dollars. So yes, if you're being a stickler, there's nothing wrong with drawing a line in the sand and deciding that you don't want nobody to get paid from your likeness. But like even college, you go to college, you're gonna sign something that says we can put you on any of our brochures, any of our, you know what I'm saying? They always get the couple talking black folks.
My daughter and I just seen it, and I feel some kind of way.
You said who did?
Homeless Tornadoes, the nonprofit organization.
You signed a photo.
I don't remember signing anything though. I just remember going to an event that they had.
You might not have signed anything.
And yeah, I don't remember.
Sometimes
Did
it's
not.
like fine prints and like event rights, like you get consent for
Yeah.
pictures to be used, because people don't look that small into it, but it is, particularly when you're registering for stuff online, it is standard that people are throwing that in.
But I
because
just
people
thought
don't
it was weird as a person that's fleeing domestic violence.
look.
I didn't think that
No, that's
was
crazy.
cool
No, that's
for
crazy.
you to be putting up pictures of people
Yeah.
and their kids. Because if I'm
Yeah.
trying to be
Low key.
low key from a person, why are you
Yeah.
putting me on a website and my baby?
No, that's wild.
And I never knew this.
Now you put when you explain it like that, that's wild.
And their website,
And
like,
you could
you know where
cease
they're
and desist.
located, so that means you know what city we live in. Because like just little stuff like that, I feel like we probably need to do better as Black creative to protect ourselves from a lot of different things. Because I think it's affecting us more than other people.
Absolutely. Now, I think with that you could send, like she said, send a cease and desist. And even in a situation where you might sign something away, there's still times where you can send a cease and desist, like, nah, bro, and you might still win. You feel what I'm saying? Because people don't really, do I want to tussle with this one person over this one picture? Probably not, right? But it's other times where it doesn't go that way. Yeah, it's other times where it doesn't go that way. Like, I don't know if Facebook used Beyonce for something or Instagram for something, it might be a fair fight. Beyonce might be like, nah, y'all can't use my likeness for this, and this, even if I did sign such and such, right? And it's gonna be a fair fight. But if one of us try to sue me, we're like, bruh, get up out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
We buy your whole life.
yeah, I'm not even thinking about that. You feel what I'm saying?
We don't have the money
To fight. Yeah, but to them, if it's Beyonce, they're like, man, is this worth our public relation, our image, or
Yeah.
we gonna look bad in the public, the relationship? Or even another example, Dave Chappelle. When they put the Chappelle show on Netflix, he wasn't getting paid. He did it basically like a 15-minute stand-up where he just talked about how unfair it is, the process that these companies go through to extract the intellectual property of a young Black man. And he walked them through the process when he signed his deal for his show. And now it's on Netflix and there's nothing he can do about it, nothing he can get paid about. So, hey, y'all, put pressure on the original owners or on Netflix to revert. However it went, they made an agreement to where he got, if not full ownership of that, at least a percentage of ownership of that. So it's never super duper cut and dry, but the best way you can protect yourself is put stuff in writing. Any contract that I do for the curriculum that I have, like the curriculum that I have, any contract I do within the curriculum, it explicitly explains that all this intellectual property belongs to me, and that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Explicitly, and they have to sign that in order for me to show up. Does that make sense?
It's sad we have to think like that.
You have to. I mean, you
It
have to.
is. It really
And
is.
again, if I make $1 million off of doing what I do one day, or 10 million, and some of these people I've done work with or pulled up on or whatever, if the little content that they do have with me, like if it's worse than them, my feeling is like, do your thing, man. Like as long as it doesn't paint me in a light that I don't appreciate or like, and we can work it out from there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the best thing to do would be to protect against that every step of the way. All right, and nowhere near the conclusion. Sorry. Where we at? All right, content. So free content. The purpose of it, right? Bite-sized moments that tell a story over time, right? That's what I look at content as. Understanding when we create free content, a lot of people are going to see this stuff. It's for the public to consume. You feel what I'm saying? So if I do a workshop, the public might not get my full workshop, but they might get a little clip here and there. You know what I'm saying, of the workshop, right? That's that free content, that bite-sized content. What it does is it helps people trust you as an expert. Like it makes people familiar with you. It makes people just trust you a little bit more as an expert. When free content is good, it drives new customers. You understand what I'm saying? When I create good free content, whether that's a commercial is a great example of free content. All day long, it's just free content. Hey, Kaiser Permanent. Hey, ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. Like that's entertainment. That's content before we knew what content was. And it might make me go get the food, even though music and food have nothing to do with each other. It might still make me go. You understand what I'm saying? So the idea when free content is good, it drives new customers, right? Now the difference between that and monetized content is monetized content usually has a comprehensive beginning, a story arc, and an end, right? And not saying free content can't do that. I think free content should do that as well. But if you're monetizing content, there's a higher threshold for what people are willing to get paid for, like you are willing to pay for. So you've heard a lot of times, like, man, I wouldn't have paid that much money. I wouldn't have paid to go watch that movie in the movie theater. I watch it for free on Netflix, but I ain't gonna go to the movie theaters to pay for it. You understand what I'm saying? Because there's a threshold where people feel like if it doesn't meet this threshold, that I don't feel like it's worth my money, right? So that's why I think that it's important that there's a comprehensive beginning, story arc, and end. It's a full story. You understand what I'm saying? It's a journey. Typically, your monetized content is going to have very few viewers versus content that you put out for free. More people see the trailer of any movie in history than people that actually watch the movie, right? That's the idea. When like the free content we do is for marketing purposes. It's to cast a wide net, and the people that love it, you know what I'm saying, will organize themselves and then come and pay for whatever our content or services are after that. And then when the thing that's important is that when monetized content is good, it leads to repeat customers. So when free content is good, it leads to new customers. When monetized content is good, it leads to repeat customers. Does that make sense? I had a hand right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got another question too that you didn't think
Mhm.
of.
You got it.
So
That's what we here for.
what would you call it if people, whatever your field is, right? Say they pick your brain about it. At
Mhm.
first I was doing it for free.
Yeah,
Recently I did suggest that I get payment, and I did get payment.
absolutely.
But I want to know, what do I call that? Can I make that a service? How much is realistic to what's the verbiage around that? Because I get that a lot, and I was just doing it just out of love.
Yeah.
But it's like y'all getting beyond with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They got a whole free employee.
Yeah, and I just feel like maybe I could also use that for some revenue too.
Absolutely, that's a revenue source. There's a lot of things you can call it. You can call it what did I be called? I want to say consultation. That's probably the most widely used, like some type of consultation fee.
Mm-hmm.
Like absolutely, but I charge a consultation fee. I think when people know it ahead of time, they take to it a little bit better. So sometimes they ask for, can I pick your brain? And they like, yeah, but I charge a consult fee. Like the average person might feel some type of way, but who cares, right? But I say that to say, if you know that that's something, that there's a demand on your time in that way, that there are people that want to pick your brain, people are going to respect it when you go out and you let them know consultation services available, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. Like now you're like, when you market it as a product, people just tend to respect it a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like instead of them hiring me for the event though, they're trying to get everything that I do and do it themselves.
For sure.
This just happened twice with two nonprofits.
Mhm.
But she cashed out me something, but I'm like, I don't know what I should be, cause I just feel like it wasn't, like what she gave me, like, it's something compared to me just doing it for free.
Mhm.
I definitely don't feel like it was.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you have very good instincts as far as people playing you. For real, everything you're talking about is it like you were.
It wasn't always like that.
Like-
I was playing
No, I know, and that might be where the very good instincts come from, right? Like because even when I'm like, yeah, I ain't tripping like that. You're like, but no, that's not fair to use my name and image and likeness for money. When you dot your I's and cross your T's, that's technically the truth. You're technically correct. You understand what I'm saying? So I said it to say what you're feeling is absolutely true. That's what's happening. This is my take on the game finance, the world of finance, right? The overall world of finance, I believe, is the system as it is set up right now, right? Not saying at every level, but the system as it is set up right now is a game of extraction, right? People pull resources from other groups of people and they finance whatever they finance. With everything from government, you know what I'm saying? They extract our taxes, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes they build streets, but they pay for whatever they feel like paying for. The military, we don't care. We not trying to separate. We're not trying to hire military people, but they are. So they extract the money, right? When they send people to the prison industrial complex, they take our people, they extract our people from our communities, they send them to jail, and they get paid every step of the way. The policeman gets paid, the lawyer gets paid, the judge gets paid, the jailer gets paid, the people that own the prisons get paid. Every single person gets paid, but the resources, the people that they're extracting, the people, you know what I'm saying, the people that they're taking out of their community. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, the system as it exists right now is a system of extraction. What happens oftentimes in interpersonal relationships is that system reproduces itself, right? So they might not know that they're extracting your intellectual property when they ask to pick your brain, but they are. You understand what I'm saying? So the more we recognize these things, we can either say, you know what, I'm gonna do. Now you can make a conscious decision. I'm gonna do this for the love, even though I know my value, or I'm gonna say like, nah, I'm not really. No, thank you. You know what I'm saying? I want my full value. You understand what I'm saying? But you can make now when you can make the conscious decision. When I know that technically she owns this copyrighted material of me, I can make a conscious decision. And not saying that no, you know what I'm saying? I can make a conscious decision like, hey, if I blow up and she got that, man, more power to you, sis. We won. You understand what I'm saying? But or if I was somebody else or whatever, felt a different type of way, I might be like, nah, no, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Or it was a different place in my career, I might be like, no, thank you. You understand what I'm saying? But the point is to understand what is going on. Then you can make an appropriate decision based on your values and how you feel and all those things, right? But yes, in those situations, they're extracting your intellectual property and using it without really paying you and compensating you for it. And that's the biggest, I would say, when it comes to Black creators. And that's why this topic is so important.
Right.
Black creators, they extract our creativity so very often. Fortnite was getting sued by the people that invented the Millie Rock and the people that invented the Dougie, because they just took our intellectual property and put it in a video game and was like it was all good. I believe Fortnite won that. Don't quote me, but I believe Fortnite won that, and they shouldn't have. They should have absolutely lost. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
But it's a game of extraction when it comes to Black creators. When you talk about the music industry, they make us sign these papers. I ain't gonna say they make us, but we choose to sign these papers, right? And it might be coercion based on our situation, and we give away our rights to our intellectual property, and these corporations make millions and millions of dollars. Their children, they put their children through college, but we might have got an upfront fee one time. You understand what I'm saying? So it is a game of extraction. This is why understanding the game and understanding how intellectual property works is so important. Make sense?
That was good.
Right.
We should be taught in high school.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Because the kids are the ones who are
Right.
They're the ones making up the coolest stuff.
They are, you know what I mean?
Straight up.
And so,
All the dances, all the just any cultural moment, all the memes, all the periods, all the you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Anything you could think, any cool
Black youth.
Black youth, and it's always been that way. And right now, if you look at any of these corporate Twitter accounts, bet you they're gonna be saying period and standing on business and whatever else we made up. They're using our language right now as we speak. You know what I'm saying? And so there are ways to protect our intellectual property, understand what we have, and to monetize it, right, in our own ways. Any questions here?
That's the course for you right there, monetize,
What's that?
protecting your intellectual property.
I mean, this is it. We doing it right now. This
Yeah.
is it. But I just haven't. Oh my goodness. I just haven't. To be honest, I was gonna videotape this and make this a digital product. I actually did videotape it. And the sound didn't work. So I just didn't end up doing it. Yeah, we'll work it out. We can work it out now. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. We're gonna work it out.
I'm thinking you
gonna work it out.
contract with school district. I think there should be an automatic course that high schoolers have to take.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. I got a lot of courses that everybody should take. Those crazy.
Right.
It's like,
this ain't
this ain't the only one. This is one of them. No, you're right. But I got a gang of them. So yes, they need to. I have a lot of work. I have a lot of workshops, a lot of hours worth of content
Yeah,
that I've already created.
Swap out something like philosophy.
What's
Oh,
your
okay.
Some
content?
bull crap that they gonna
It's
use.
Ant Walker 33.
I was like, science teachable.
Yeah, this is.
Like the course you want.
My son.
Thanks, Jermaine.
My twin
You're
was
welcome.
17 when they went to college.
You said what?
So my twin was 17 for going to college.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing they know about money is about
Mm-hmm.
Right.
very little. I know,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Well, we do have a book. Before we get out of here, I'll give you an opportunity to grab the book.
Me too. I got a daughter now, so I'll be like, oh, chef, like
Yeah,
that.
talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. So, type of content and coinciding social media platforms. I think this matters a little bit if you're like a social media creator, but I think it matters more to just identify where these types of content that we've seen throughout the course of history, where they show up in modern day, right? So, like, we know that Instagram got famous off of pictures. You feel what I'm saying? Pictures have been taking place for at least a couple hundred years or something, right? I don't know when pictures start, but at least a couple hundred years. But it's interesting that the mediums change, but the underlying intellectual property essentially stays the same, right? So pictures, we see it monetized on Instagram. Videos, we see it monetized on TikTok and YouTube, right? The written word, books, we see it monetized heavily on Twitter before it was X. Audio, we seen Clubhouse get like a couple $100 million, might have got $1 billion valuation. Don't quote me on that. But it got a very high valuation a couple years ago when it blew up during the pandemic, all through audio. You understand what I'm saying? You think about audio book sites, all these things. So this is where some of these contents, this is where some of this free content happens. But just like I just explained to you, free content, I could tell you a coinciding paid platform that goes with that content as well. So for example, pictures, we just talked about like Shutterfly, where you have to pay to get these stock photos. That's a coinciding, exactly. That's a coincidence. There's the free one, Instagram, Shutterfly, the paid one, right? When you talk about videos, that we still got the movie industry. We still got TV shows. I could still make a movie. I could, like I said, we create a digital product. I create a website and on monetizing intellectual property. They come in and they buy this little hour-long video from me. You understand what I'm saying? That still exists. That's still a thing. Or we talk about movies, TV, etc. Written, Twitter. We do it for free all day long, but we could actually also write a book. And now, you know what I'm saying? Now there's that monetization piece that we talked about. And the audio Clubhouse, audio books are super duper popular. Podcasts are super duper popular nowadays. And if they can be given, this is what we need to understand. If it can be given away for free, it could also be sold. That's for you in the back. If it can be given away for free, then it could also be sold. Period, point blank. It takes a little bit of work. It takes more work to sell it than it does to give it away for free. Sometimes, but it can be sold if it can be given away for free. All right, protecting. So when it comes to protecting our intellectual property, the three ways that we protect those things is through trademarks, copyrights, and patents. We've already talked about trademarks as the easiest, or we've already talked about copyrights as the easiest form of owning intellectual property, because all you have to do is create it, put it in a fixed form, and you technically own it thereafter, right? As long as it's time stamped, you know when it was created. and it's in a fixed form and it's yours, you can prove yours came before anybody else's, then you own that copyright. You understand what I'm saying? With that being said, if you want to protect it further than that, you could send it to the Office of Copyright. Don't quote me on the exact, I might got it in my notes right in here. But the Office of Copyright, you could put an extra layer of protection over the copyright to ensure that it is like, if you're about to go to trial, to make sure that you're going to win that trial based on that. Make sense? Awesome. Okay, so when we talk about trademarks, so this is my brand right here, y'all. Finance-Friday.com. I don't ever do a presentation without plugging my for-profit business. You know what I'm saying? Not to say this is not a for-profit business either, but Finance Friday is the name of my business. At this time, I did a lot of you can't see. Oh, you can kind of see it. I did a lot of T-shirts. I started off with T-shirts. At this point in time, I do a lot of I have a number of different things, right? But I started off with clothing. Then I ended up writing my book. And I just got back to clothing like last month. I actually have a dope sweatsuit that's out right now. So check it out, finance-friday.com. If you're on Instagram, AntWalker33 is my Instagram. Check me out there as well. But the reason that I brought this up is because, like I mentioned before, Love is Current. Me and my family own a trademark for Love is Currency. Now, a trademark is any mark that I'm trying to figure out the best way to define it. A trademark is any mark that is associated with the brand, right? A trademark is any mark that is associated, or anything, let me say that again. Any mark that is associated with the brand can be trademarked. You understand what I'm saying? But it has to be, there's a couple things, right? It has to be either a slogan, it has to be a slogan or the name of a brand, or a tagline, slogan, name of a brand, tagline, or it can be anything. What's the best way I could explain trademark? I think I have it in my notes. Hold on. Let me pull up my notes. Okay. So a trademark can be any word, phrase, symbol, design, or a combination of these things that identifies your goods or service. So the key to that is identifies your goods or services, right? That's the legal language that's important. Basically says anything that identifies your goods or service. So it could be any word, phrase, symbol, design, or a combination of these things that identify your goods or services, right? Interestingly, when it comes to trademarking things that go on the front of your shirt, you're technically not supposed to be able to trademark anything that's on the front of the shirt. They call that decorative, right? It does not connect back, or it's not what's that phraseology? It doesn't identify your goods or services, right? It's just something that is on the front of your shirt. How we were able to trademark Love is Currency and how we're trying to trademark Pay Yourself First and Buy Land is because it's unless, right? It's decorative if it's on the front of your shirt, unless you have a tag, a coinciding tag that goes with that particular shirt. So I from day one, I created tags. Y'all seen the back of my tags. The back of my tags are these, right? 12 Principles of Financial Freedom. The front of my tag says, whatever shirt it is, pay yourself first. That's what it's going to say. Black wealth, that's what it's going to say. Buy land, that's what the tag is going to say. The reason it does that because I understand that you can't trademark anything on the front of your shirt unless you have a tag that goes with it. It will be considered decorative, right? So, because now when you have a tag, it falls under the requirement that we originally talked about, which said that identifies your goods or services. So my tag is now an identifier of this good or services, not necessarily what it says on the front of the shirt. Does that make sense? Loophole, I met with like 5-6 different lawyers to figure that out because I felt like it was important that we figure that out, right? But that's the main thing. It identifies your goods or services. You have to, the process of getting a trademark, we could technically do it for free, but I would highly suggest, a lot of lawyers have free consultations when it comes to trademark. I would highly suggest talking to lawyers if you are unsure of if something is trademarkable. I would go through the process of talking to lawyers. What I will say is colors, trademarkable. Logos, trademarkable. Names of businesses, trademarkable. Slogans or taglines, absolutely trademarkable. These are categories that it already falls under these categories today. So you don't got to do no extra work to know that these things are trademarkable. Now, and then sometimes when it gets a little tricky when you do combinations or other things that like maybe not. So I would definitely suggest talking to a lawyer in any of those situations. Questions here?
Is it expensive? My mind says expensive, but I want to say like, what are some of the fees
The cost?
to just to meet with a lawyer? My mind
It's
thinks
free.
of,
Them trademark lawyers, their consultations typically are free.
okay.
So you can talk to them. Typically, you just look them up, talk to them. They're gonna tell you whether it makes sense or it doesn't. Typically, I mean, don't quote me on this camera, but a trademark lawyer might cost you $1,000 to go through the process of trademarking something for you. Maybe a little more, a little less, but I know like $1,000 usually you'll be able to get some trademark through the lawyer. It costs another, don't quote me on the price either, but like $250, $350 to the Office of Trademarks. The USPTO is that office, what that office is called. Right now I do facilitation for somebody else's curriculum. It's not my curriculum. But I've been told that if your business makes over $50,000, that you should start to consider trademarking the things associated with it. Some people believe you should do it before. If you're Google, Apple, all them people, they're gonna do the trademark before they ever. So like one thing that is people that like report on today, Apple just filed a trademark for such and such, so you have a good idea of what's coming down the pipe. You understand what I'm saying? For the average person, you want to at least have a proof of concept, I believe. Because once you put it in that fixed form, again, similarly, even if it's not necessarily trademark, if it goes to court, you could always go back to, hey, as you can see, I've been selling this particular product, service, etc., or whatever the case is from this date. Then we got a trademark, you know what I'm saying? But I would say have at least a proof of concept. That particular organization that say you should want to see yourself make $50,000 first, that's their opinion. You know what I'm saying? It's subjective. I don't want to hold y'all to that. If you feel like, nah, this is $1 million idea, I need to protect it right now. But understand that even when you take it to the trademark people, you can't protect it unless it's in a fixed form somehow, some way. Does that make sense? And I think it has to be, I think fixed form is the only thing. It doesn't, I know they do ask if it's being sold. So that's one thing that, so it's kind of like chicken or the egg, right? Do I do the trademark first? Or, but you can technically trademark ahead of time. But just, we don't want to be the type that's just trademarking everything, but not really anything of value. It's like owning 100% of nothing is nothing. You gonna say something?
One thing that when I first started doing
but
this,
use your judgment on that. Sorry, go ahead.
First started doing this with my hats, my friends and people were like, oh, you should like make a patent for that or something like that. Would it, I want to say, would it be simple? But my imagination goes, I think the first part is maybe having like a drawing or a series of drawings where it goes like, this is what I was thinking, so that it's clear, what the thought is first, so that it is somewhere in a fixed format.
Yeah, so drawings help or mock-ups help. I'm gonna show you a drawing in a second. I don't have it on this piece of paper, but I'll show you a pretty dope drawing that we can talk through that. So copyright, and what I don't cover today is patents because it's not something I have expertise on, but it's very important. We'll dig into some of that a little bit together, right? So copyright. I have a website right here, but and in addition to the first website I shared with you, finance-friday.com, beersforBlackWealth.com is where you can find my book, but you can also find it on finance-friday.com. This was my original cover to my book. This is the first mock-up of the cover. It looks nowhere near as dope as the new cover, right? But when I created this presentation is when I was waiting on my book, so I used this cover. But long story short, copyright is anything else, anything that you put in a fixed form. But we're talking about we're not talking about things that represent your brand or identify your brand. We're talking about the underlying thing: photos, videos, books. You know what I'm saying? Anything that is more so consumable versus trademarks is less about it being consumable and more about it being an identifier for people to understand your brand. The thing about trademarks, the important thing when we talk about trademarks is you want to make sure that there is no customer confusion, right? So anytime that if you could prove that you could say that a company is infringing on my trademark, if there may be confusion between what you're selling, your goods, your services, and what they're selling, their goods, their services. Also, another thing to explain about trademarks is there's different classes of trademarks, right? So there's like a number of different classes. So depending on what you're selling, you're going to ask for a trademark in a different class. So for example, if you're selling shirts, the class is going to be the under clothing, right? But if you're selling eyewear or a podcast or video, those are going to be all under different things. So somebody might have the Love is Currency podcast, and it might not be nothing I could do about it. You understand what I'm saying? Unless I kind of created that first, right? But since I have the Love is Currency brand already, I might say, well, that's creating customer confusion. Even though y'all doing podcasts and I'm doing shirts, it's still making confusion. So you still might have an argument, but I'm technically not protected against podcasts, but I am protected against shirts. Mm-hmm. So I would have to keep trademarking in different classes in order to truly insulate myself.
Right, like a lot.
To initially, like,
Absolutely.
and just be like, and all.
Absolutely. It's just gonna cost $350 a pop or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Per class. Like the lawyer might just write it up for you. They might not add an extra charge to it because it's the same filing pretty much, but it's gonna be extra $350 every class. So you can do 10 classes if you want to. It's gonna cost some money. So I would say focus on the one or the ones that you're actively in or actively planning to break into. As far as your hat question, we'll do some work together. But I think I talked about copyrights at length, right? It's things that you put in fixed form, but are more consumable things, and that's not a legal term. That's just my observation as far as being consumable. Oh. Do it again. Okay. So a couple things we can do to protect ourselves, right? I would say a couple pre-steps we could do to protect ourselves before pursuing trademarks and before pursuing trademarks, copyrights, and patents is buy website domains, right? Buy the website domain to your business, to your, whatever it is that you feel like is strong and powerful piece of intellectual property. That's one way to occupy. It's one way to have a hedge, right? It doesn't really have necessarily legal standing, but it does create a hedge for you in different ways from people, you know what I'm saying, taking what you got going on. Get the social media handles, another way to create a hedge. Does it have standing in court? Not really, but not that I know of, but it does create that hedge for you. Get a business entity, a LLC, sole proprietorship, S Corp, or partnership. Getting a business entity. Again, does that stand up in court? Just because I have a LLC called Black Girls Revolt, does that protect me necessarily from somebody else using that phrase? It doesn't necessarily protect me from that, but it's a way. It's a way to start to deter that from early, right? Very inexpensively, right? As we're building, and then obviously, then we take the other steps of getting our trademarks, getting our copyrights, and getting our patents. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about product development, right? So for me, when I first started creating my brand, the first thing I started with merch. I started off with t-shirts. Then eventually I wrote a book. Then I created a digital product, and then I started doing events. And when I say events, I'm talking like really I don't do like events. Technically, I do like workshops and show up to teach in that way. But this is the order in which I started. I would have probably started in a different way, but the cool thing is I am monetizing in all these ways, right? I have monetizing digital products. It's not something that I have an ebook and I do have a digital product that I have for sale at one point, but then I pulled it down because I felt like I was making more money going and doing workshops and selling these little digital products. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like the difference of me saying, hey y'all, I'm doing these seminars on intellectual property and branding it and like getting a push behind it. Different between me doing that and saying, hey y'all, you could buy this course, right? Just where do you want to put your hours and attention into? For me, it just makes more sense to pull the digital products and go to events. But this is kind of the order that I started in. If I can do it again, I might do it in this order, right? I might go digital product, book, merch, and then events. doesn't matter to y'all. It's just just giving you more insight into my thinking. And the reason being is because, again, at the time, digital products were exceptionally, people made a lot of money off of them during the pandemic, right? I missed that way. But even now, right, now that I'm doing all these workshops and I'm getting paid good money to come in and do workshops at different organizations, there's only so much of me. You know what I'm saying? Like I could only go to so many workshops, but I could sell the same material digitally a million times, right? So the play that's going to start happening with a lot of content creators and a lot of like educators, right, is going to be licensing, right? And that's one thing I didn't put in this presentation that I need to add, right? One of the big benefits of owning your intellectual property is the ability to license that intellectual property, right? So, for example, one of my dreams in life is I think Disney should do some merch that say "Love is currency" on it. I just do. I think they should license. I think they should license that phrase. So I'm not going to sell it to them. Sorry, I can't. It's not for sale. But I can license it to them for 5 years' time. Y'all could use this phrase, you know what I'm saying, and have merchandise and have it be one of your slogans for whatever you got going on, right? That's like a big long-term goal is licensing. If not that, very interesting to me, right? Y'all might not care at all. But have y'all heard of Fanbase?
Yeah.
It's a black social media app. It's a black social media application. The cool thing about it is they monetize everything, right? It's like a lot more people like have to subscribe to they don't have to, but they can subscribe to your thing and like support you the whole time, right? Very unique in that way. But the currency on that app is love. So love is currency within the context of that particular app. They could I could sell it to him. Listen, bro, I got something I think you might want to license. Love is currency. That's because their currency in that app is called love. Right? They buy hearts and they're buying love. So that could be a potential licensing partnership in the future that I do. Because he can't go put it on the shirt. I'll send him a cease and desist so quick. I have my lawyer send it so quick. You know what I'm saying? But I'm willing to negotiate. So give me a call. Right?
Right.
But these are things that and that's for every medium. It's not just not just shirts. It's also for example, say some of these big organizations say you own your content, right? Say you show up and you do this, you do your presentations, whatever. Say that one organization that stole your stuff, but did it the right way and was like, hey, listen, we love what you created. It's beautiful. We would love to use this content. What can we work out? You can say, oh, I'm glad you asked. I actually have licensing deals available. You can license this content for up to a year, up to 2 years, up to however many years you want. And you could use it. You know what I'm saying? You could use it for your purposes for that period of time. You know, you just can't recreate it and whatever, but you could use it and you draw that up in a contract, and now it's a licensing agreement, and it's okay for them to. Now you show up to the conference like, oh yeah, man, you see my content up there on the stage, baby. I got paid for that. You feel good about it. They feel good about it. That's the huge market, a huge business is licensing. So it's important that we have that in our purview as well as we're building out our businesses. Movies, when movies go from the theaters to Netflix or the theaters to Amazon, it's because those places are paying some type of licensing fee. You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes licensing fees come with royalties too. So I might say, hey, you could do the shirt design, Disney, and we'll do a licensing fee of something like, just give me 100 bands, right? If I feel like it's worth $1 million, I might say, just give me 100,000. But I want $1 off of every shirt you sell. Now you can get royalties on the back end as well. So that could be included and baked into licensing agreements. So just some things to think about. So again, if I could do it again, I would start with digital products, because that's what I'm trying to figure out now. How do I scale myself? How do I make this reach more people with less work? And it would technically be a digital product that I could potentially license to certain companies. Like, hey, I got some great content on this particular subject. Are you all interested in licensing it? You feel what I'm saying? Book, I would have done my books. That would have been the second thing I did. I'd have credited some dope digital products. Then I'd have credited a book that I think it's like one of the oldest. It's like one of the oldest forms of media, and I think it's never going nowhere. And there's so many things you can do as far as like audio books, digital books, etc., based off that book. And then merchandise, I've done a little later in the game. I'm kind of doing it again now. and then events. But I might have even done events first. So all of that is neither here nor there. Oh, last thing, leveraging third parties to monetize your content, right? I think it's important that we monetize I think it's important that we understand how monetizing some of these platforms that exist work, right? So monetizing existing platforms like YouTube, Facebook, IG, Spotify, on all of these, whether we realize it or not, on all of these platforms, we technically retain ownership of our copyright. So we own it, right? And we place it on their platforms, even though we do lose some level of, they can still use it, they can remix it, but we technically own the underlying copyright, right? Go ahead.
Yes, because I did stuff over Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to do self-publishing with Amazon.
That's a little different. I don't know if you own it or not on Amazon.
No, because it says I can't do anything for the first 3 years.
Okay, so that means that doesn't necessarily mean that they own it. That just means for the first 2 years, they might be like a licensing agreement.
Yeah.
Where they're licensed to get for 3 years. So that's not the worst thing in the world, but I will look into it a little bit more. I don't understand. I don't know the full details on it. But because my book is not on Amazon, I do want to put it on there though. I just haven't went through the process. But as far as when they publish it, they might have like there might be a licensing agreement. Again, that might not be the worst thing in the world. But when they say for 3 years, does that mean you can't print it on your own and sell it? Oh, yes, that's janky.
Yeah.
Anything on my own. They have all rights to do what they want to do for the first 3 years.
Dang. When did you figure that out through the process?
I read everything before I agreed.
And so you did agree though?
No.
Okay, so you just say smart woman. That's what I'm talking about. So you understood it didn't make no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first 3 years.
Yeah, that's all the promotion and stuff you want to do.
So we talk about that in certain places and share that information.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want to be, good and lying.
Right.
Because I knew I was myself.
Right.
Right.
So, right.
I'm gonna find a way.
So-
I can tell you that.
So imagine if you just didn't have to wear. Imagine how many people sign that contract, not even know. So that's if you do an ebook through them, or that's if you do any publishing through them.
So self-publishing.
Anytime you do self-publishing through them, you can't sell it outside of their platform. That's great information because I knew it was something tricky, but I never went through the process to really know. And I told one of my homeboys like that I think that's what it was like. He still went on Amazon. But if you print it yourself, right? And this is the difference. If you print it yourself, if you create it yourself and then put it on Amazon, they don't have no rights over the ownership. You just got to print it. It's just one extra step. All publishing means is printing it. That's the only thing publishing means to me, from what I understand. And who owns it? Publishing, the publisher is technically own it. So when you talk about music, there's two parts of music. One side is called the master, and the other side is called publishing. Publishing is the writer, right? So when we sell our publishing, we might be the writers, but we sell the ownership of the publishing to somebody like an Amazon, and they're crooks. That's a game of extraction. That's crooked. It's possible. You can't make $1 outside of Amazon for the first 3 years. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad you caught that. And that's the whole point of this conversation is for that
I
to.
believe they get 13% of the sale.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And you have no way of tracking what's actually sold. So you don't even have access to your data. You don't even know what they actually sold. You just got to depend on them to tell you. But it's like,
To be honest, right?
yeah, I hope my bad accounting year, you actually sold $1 million. You know what I'm saying? My bad accounting year. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? And you'll never know. And I know people that have published through Amazon and have been trying to get their rights back, and they've sold more than they see, like all type of crazy stuff. I know one brother in particular that kind of talked me through that. So leveraging third parties platforms, monetize. The cool thing, the way that these monetizing platforms work, YouTube, Facebook, all these places, right, is they sell ads against your IP. You do a video and it gets billions and millions of views. They sell to third parties ads that show up on your YouTube video, right? We know how that works, right? So you technically get a certain amount of money per click, right? Per how many ads get clicked on your particular video. So if you have 1 million views, You know what I'm saying? There's a per click, there's a certain amount of clicks that are going to happen in that million views, and you get a certain amount of money per click. Does that make sense? So that's third party leveraging, which is interesting, right? Speaking engagements or workshops, once you establish yourself as a subject expert, people will pay you to speak on a topic. They just will. You know what I'm saying? And then podcasting. I believe that podcasting is a special form of monetization because you have an opportunity to leverage other people's intellectual property in order to create your own, right? So if I get all the top smartest people in the whole entire world and I videotape them for an hour every week, at the end of 52 weeks, I got books and books worth of other people's intellectual property that I technically own. Does that make sense? So it's
Similar to like the photography stuff.
similar to the photography stuff, absolutely. And that's why, you know, that's why the podcast we play the cloud game. Anything that could do to get the bigger, better, because now you technically own a small sliver of this person's image, likeness, etc. You know what I'm saying? And I would imagine at those higher levels that they're creating agreements and explanations and all that type of stuff too. So yeah. I think that's all conclusions. So one thing that I want us to understand is that you have to make something significant for intellectual property to matter. From a business perspective, not from a personal perspective, because it matters even if it's your likeness going on certain things and understanding how that works, right? But from a business perspective, you have to create something that is worth money, that matters, right? You have to put your ideas in a fixed form, right? Don't be scared to share what you create or are creating early on in the process. And the big reason for that is because you technically have the copyright over a lot of it. As soon as you share it, put it in a fixed form. If you never put it in a fixed form and distribute it, then you technically don't own. So it could be an idea sitting on your camcorder that somebody else says it later, but you never put it out. And they technically have the copyright over that particular idea. Yeah, it's going to be slightly different because people are different, but they could always tell you later on, like, hey, bro, you know, cease and desist, because that sounds too similar to what I just put out. Does that make sense? So don't be scared to build in public a little bit. You know, be smart about it, but don't be scared to build in public a little bit. I'm not saying share trade secrets or anything like that, but it's important that we understand that part. Once you know it's valuable to somebody else, protect it through trademarks, copyrights, and patents. Simple as that. Patents, I would say, is a little bit different. Patents, oftentimes, if it's a patent, sometimes you might want to save it, not put it out there before you put it out, depending on how technical it is. And I'm going to find you the definition of patents. I can't think of the language right now, but I'm going to find that for you in a second and see if what you got qualifies to be patented, right? Be creative to find ways, be creative in finding ways to monetize what you have created and owned. Like, understand that what I touched on today is just a small sample of the different ways that we could monetize what we own. There's a million billion different ways. There's unlimited amount of ways that we can make money off of what we own, what we create, what we know, etc. So be creative. Don't feel like there's only what exists in the world is the only thing that exists. But also, let's study the ways that people make money in the world with intellectual property. And they might not call it intellectual property, or they might not frame it the same way I framed it, but that's what it comes down to. We touched on movies, we touched on books, we touched on all type of the meme, we touched on all types of different ways that people make money off intellectual property. So my hope is that when you go into the world and you see things, you can start to understand how money flows just a little bit more because you have some insight on some of that stuff. Helpful?
Yeah.
Glad. Questions. So we got 10 minutes for questions. I know I went over a little bit.
No, that's good stuff.
What time do y'all leave? Y'all leave at 1?
1:30.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got as much time as y'all need then.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she looked like, hold on, 1. You leave at 1? Okay. It's all good. We get your questions out the way. What you got? Or thoughts?
As we were going through this was really good.
Yeah.
This was really good.
Awesome. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it.
Really helpful.
Thank you. I'm super glad that y'all enjoyed it. Any other? I know we did use the time to ask questions throughout. So, no pressure on questions.
And thank you for that, because I'm sorry for not waiting until the end.
It makes it even better when people, because again, like I said, your answer was better than my answer. I was telling you my opinion, not facts. You were speaking facts. So that's why it's so important to let the people in the room speak up, because That's actually closer to the truth than what I said. I'm just, we are not really diplomatic, but it's more so like I don't care sometimes. Like I sometimes but you don't care. You feel what I'm saying? And sometimes people are trying to work you, and sometimes people aren't trying to work you. You understand what I'm saying? You just don't know. But it's okay to just kind of like assess it and say, like, okay, if this person was trying to work me, this is how they could get over on me. This is how I would maybe lose in this situation. You know what I'm saying? But if this person wants to do well and grow together, this is how it could go well. You feel what I'm saying? It's just good to just to be able to see, but it's not really diplomatic. I just don't be caring all the time about every single thing. I'm not just such a stickler, but I understand the concepts, and then we'll kind of work out the details as we go. Because I got a cameraman, he don't sign a work for hire thing. He comes and he shoots stuff for me. If he wants to get rich off of that later, more power to him. I gave him a couple $100. Like, I hope he gets rich off of that one day. You feel what I'm saying? And he helps me. And it feels like we have a relationship to where if he put out something that I didn't like, I'd be like, hey, bro, can you take that to him, bro? I don't like how that looks. And he would. Like, it wouldn't be nothing. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I just don't, it's not that deep all the time for me, but it is that deep in real life. Like, for sure.
Yeah. I think what that is a good thing for us when you said like a case by case thing or having certain relationships with people. So maybe certain stuff you do within the community, like you said, you don't really trip. But I think as Black creators, we need to trip more because we're allowing people to make way more money than we're ever seeing off our intellectual property and ideas and stuff like that. So that just gave me like a lot to do.
And I'm gonna be to that point. I'm gonna be a lot harder. Like, I'm not about to. Yeah, it's different outside the community. It's different in different settings too.
Yeah.
I'm not about to just show up and let you. So what are you doing? Like I'm not sending you my presentation. I'm not doing certain things in certain spaces. Like, it's never gonna happen. Like, it's not even a question. When I know that they're gonna take that to turn around and sell it.
Yeah.
Most of us is gonna just be like, hey, I'm for this reason or for that reason, but like it's 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna make $1 million. But certain settings, it's like, no, I don't play no games. We're not doing none of that. Like, how does that work? And one of my partners, she'd be like, yeah, bro, you be a little too lax on some things. Maybe true. Yeah, no, that's deep. That's deep right there.
Resources like bullet points. I don't ever give out like a whole presentation.
Yo, you doing it right. You doing it right.
That's real.
Let's look up your patent, Jermaine. What was the question about patent?
That's a really good idea though. When I first seen that, I did think to myself, I was like, wait a second. Like, I don't know if they even think that that's what was going on. I have never seen that.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people with Black females, males, that would be huge. I think personally.
Yeah, when I first did it, I was just playing around with it. I was like, no, I'm just wear it, whatever. It's my business, right? But then people they just start stopping me. They're like, yo, that's super tight. And then, sometimes it's bigger reactions, sometimes smaller reactions. I'm like, that's interesting. Like, I was literally just doing this just for me. Because, I tell my friends, like, we're in California. People don't stop people in California. We'd be like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to just keep minding my business. I'm talking about complete strangers, Black folks, white folks. Just like, I just wanted to say, like, that looks so nice. I think that's so cool, blah, blah, blah. You should, da-da-da-da. And I go, I really wasn't planning on that. And,
You should look into it, bro.
Uh-huh.
You should look into it. So the definition is a patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention, which is a product or a process that provides in general a new way of doing something or offers a new technical solution to a problem. To get a patent, technical information about the invention must be disclosed to the public in a patent. Here's another, all of these there's like a technical term that underpins all of these. I can't think of what it is for patents, but I'm gonna look.
Mm-hmm.
What is one? What is it? Yeah, I'm gonna look.
Right.
But there's always like one little phrase that is like most of the definition hinges on that. So like one of those phrases is like you have to put it in a fixed form. That's like a lot of like early lawsuits, I believe, like hinged on that one particular phrase. So that's like now case law that they use to make all of these decisions. Is it in a fixed form or not? You know what I'm saying? There's certain like phraseologies when it comes to like the legal world. I'm not an expert at all, but there are certain things that become precedent. Like once the higher, it's like taking something to the Supreme Court. Once it gets to a higher court and they make a decision on it, now it becomes precedent in all of the lower courts. So the lower courts can always point to the Supreme Court and say, hey, in this case, they ruled in this way. We're going to rule based on that precedent. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where some of that language comes from. I don't know the exact language for patents. That's super important, but I would look into it for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder what makes it different than you gotta. I think part of it is like distinguishing qualities. You gotta figure out what makes that different than a visor.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, because I've seen when I looked it up, tried to find like other people doing it, whatever. I did find somebody that had a thing where it's like this, but it is cut off here, and it's called like they have a name for it, right? This particular company have a name for it, and so when they do their fedoras, they cut it really low, and they call it like a visor, but it's like a visor or something like that.
Interesting.
And so that's would be the difference. Honestly, it's like keeping it all the way up here. Like I've seen other people bring it up, like about like Cam Newton does something similar too, right?
Does it? Yeah, I've been seeing him.
But I've never heard him go or seen him. And honestly, he only does it sometimes. He doesn't do it like all the time. And so I feel like it's not something that he may even have a thing for. But I think he does have a company he works with. But I don't think he has a company that he goes, well, this is the company that makes these, and it's mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's and kind of to your point, it's only a thing insofar it goes, well, like not only do I feel like this is something that I like, but I feel like it's something that is going to take off, you know, and that becomes like honestly just a question of, you know, am I going to promote it? Or do I have the means to promote it? Do I have things behind me to help me to promote it and push it out really big? And that could be a thing that, you know, could determine the type of decision.
Yeah, but even if you didn't, and you just say, and you just like, you have the means to, you might be able to license it. Like I said, like, even if it's like, all right, I'm not about to take the time to build the machine to make this a huge thing, but there's a million companies that are already doing great sales and like, you know, similar market people that dress like you know what I'm saying? There's companies that wherever you bought all this stuff from, you fly, you got a certain level of fly to you, right? Those companies might say, oh, this would be a perfect product line for what we got going on. You feel what I'm saying? So now they do the actual work, but you have the patent. So
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't
I hear that.
Yeah, but when it comes to a patent, I can't think of the language, but it's certain distinguishing qualities. I can't think of there's like a certain language for it. I can't think of them.
Well, won't they tell you like if somebody else has it or not or something? Like if you try to apply, they will let you know.
Yeah, sometimes they'll let you know, like for me, pay yourself first. They said no, it's too. I think they were wrong, but they said it's too commonly used of a phrase to trademark it outright. I think they were wrong because the examples that they cited had nothing to do with merchandise, right? So I think they were wrong in that sense. But if I'd have took it to the next level with them, it'd have been kind of expensive to fight for it. And then on top of that, if I got denied, I'll be denied for life. Yeah, like it would be. So we're just gonna switch it, or just switching it a little bit, you know, reapply to make it. So yes, they'll tell you like, no, this doesn't meet the criteria or whatever, and it'd be biased. There's people back there too.
Right. Not just systems.
You said what? She was trying to trademark that. Interesting. What that? Do you know why?
They said because other people could stay the thing, and ironically enough, the next year was Katie, somebody rocking around the Christmas tree became the number one Christmas song.
Interesting.
Mariah had it for like 10 years.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
Rocking around a Christmas tree is a hit too, though.
And that's a whole song.
Not gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie.
That predates Mariah, right?
And that makes me think of Home Alone. That's why I like that song so much. Because Home Alone was my jam right there. I love that movie. Man.
Word.
But now I appreciate y'all for hanging out. But like I said, that's the first time. Thank you, Jerome, too, for having me, my brother.
Yeah.
Once you said intellectual property, I'm like, oh, I got a presentation for that.
Right.
I've been trying to get this one off, so I'm glad we got a chance to do it.
It's cool too because again, you know, when I brought it up, that was something that came up amongst them. Like honestly, no one's ever brought it up in our previous classes, and so when they brought it up, I was like, I only know one person that comes to mind when I think about trademarks. Again, because not only did you do it, but you posted about doing it on social media. So I'm like, I know he knows the process. Again, probably the points of it, but I didn't know that you had a whole presentation too.
Really,
So.
I ain't touched that presentation in 2 years, and I almost thought my other computer died, so I thought I lost it. I had to check, like, hold on, do I still have it? And I had it in my, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, okay, cool, I'm glad I got it. So praise God on that one.
Yeah.
So I'd have had it created from scratch, and it wouldn't have been as cool.
That's good stuff.
Yep. Oh, and also if you all, this is my book. If anybody is interested, you're available. Y'all showing y'all. You're available. For a low price of $20 for y'all.
And we have like, what you know, like, action.
Yep, I got all that.
Right.
That's why. Absolutely. I'll tell you anything you got.
Right.
No pressure. I'm not gonna force you to buy it, man. I want you to see it. If there's something that you like, please check it out.
How do you print? How do I do my, digital copy?
Dude, Alibaba, I'll send you the link right now. I got the link.
What's your,
Ant Walker 33.
AET?
I'm sorry, A&T Walker.
Jermaine.
Yeah.
Do you want that to be?
I'll send you my exact. The only thing is China, they want that money.
Yeah.
Or they want you to order a lot.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Dang, I don't have it. I sent it to my homeboy, but it was my old phone. What is that?
Can you sign it?
Absolutely.